morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We'll open the meeting of the Board of the Council on Aging. First, we want to welcome the newest member of our board, Virginia Leonard. Welcome. We're happy to have you on board.
Thank you.
Would you like to say any few words, or?
I've lived in Shrewsbury now for probably more than 25 years, had kids here, and have wanted to really get more involved with the town, and I think it's really interesting to work on a committee like this. I do some work like this myself for my job, so I really want to be able to utilize that, capitalize on it, and add to the community this way.
Oh, well, we welcome you, and we're happy to have you on board. Thank you. I wanted to amend the agenda under new business. I want to put in the Commission on Disabilities. I got an email yesterday from them, and we didn't have time to add that. So if you would add that to the agenda under new business, we will get to that. Okay, we'll look at the minutes of our June meeting. I had, first let me have a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I have a correction.
Yes.
I had made a misstatement last time saying that the recycling people were going to charge us for removing.
Yes.
They are not going to charge us for removing, but they will charge us for the bins.
Oh, I see. Okay. Is that here?
It's not in, it's in Katie's
Oh, it's in
minutes.
okay, we're going to get to that one in a minute.
Okay.
Let's do the minutes first, and then we'll get to the transcript. I had just a couple questions. The money from the DOT and also the Shrewsbury Housing, it says, we didn't find out if that was part of the fiscal year. It wasn't part of the
No,
fiscal year.
they have different fiscal years because they run on federal.
So the way it's written here, it sounds like that we would not get the funds. I think that, I think if it's the third paragraph down, the last sentence, I think if we just eliminate that last sentence, I think it would
Correct it?
correct it.
Okay.
Is that you have any suggestions? If it's taking longer than expected, it must be completed by June 30th in order to receive the funds by the end of the fiscal 18. So we'll eliminate that sentence. Also, it is a scientific and not a random,
Correct.
yeah. So on the next, 6th paragraph down, it says it is a random, not scientific. That should be just opposite.
Correct.
It's a scientific and not random survey. We'll change those two words. And the funds from the MCOA grant, they need to be spent by June 30th, wasn't it, instead of the 15th?
Correct. Yep.
So change the 15th in that same paragraph, the last sentence, has to be spent by June 30th and not June 15. Those are the only ones I found. Did anybody else have any other corrections or additions? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor as amended?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now the transcription. The date on it is wrong. Yes, instead of May 16th, it's June 13th. And the I marked it here.
See,
It's CMAA instead of CMCOA. So any place where it says CMCOA, it should be CMAA. You do a lot of initials, and it's hard to know what they all are, so. And it's several places in the transcription. did anybody else find, oh, I know, on page 8, it says at the program at the library is the first and third Friday. And here it says the first and fourth. So it should be the first and third.
Okay.
And then we would do the second and fourth. And not particularly Friday, but the week.
Week.
So it'd be the third, second and fourth week
Okay, week.
instead of, so take out Friday and put in week.
The library is the first and third. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then Zoya's
Pardon?
clarification,
Yes,
Zoya's
now you
clarification
have
on the
one, yes.
recycling.
I'd made a statement that
Yes.
the recycling
Yes.
were going to charge us, that needs to be deleted. They're going to charge us for the bins.
Not the recycling, okay.
Do you remember where it was, Zoya?
It is way down in the, at the end.
Must be under 16 here.
It's on 16.
Yeah, 16.
Oh, you were right, it's way at the end.
Yep, way at the end.
Can you find it? What page it's on?
It's on,
Oh, and at page 12 at the bottom, Pellegrino told her that they were going to charge us for removal of
Right.
recycling.
right.
There it is.
Is that the, okay, just delete that,
Delete that and make it, they'll charge us for the bins.
Okay,
but not the, but that, okay?
do that.
Yeah, it's page 12, okay. Okay, anything else as far as the transcription? Oh, on the last, part of the upcoming meetings, the next workshop is July 25th and not July 12th.
At our conference room? Over
Pardon?
there? At our conference room?
In our conference room, I think, yes, we're gonna,
As, that's, at least we hadn't talked about doing anything different, although, I don't know, now that we think about it, we might be, I know we talked about that we might be cramped,
because we're meeting with the staff,
yeah,
so maybe,
yeah.
we could
There's
meet
enough, there are enough chairs in there.
There should be,
Yeah.
it'll just be, well, it'll be a tight squeeze, but we should all
What was
fit.
the time of that strategic meeting?
Pardon?
What will the time be on that strategic meeting?
Um,
What time will it be
is
held?
that 1:30 to 3:30?
1:30 to 3:30. Okay.
Yeah. I believe that's right, is that? Okay. Yeah, I think we'll leave it at the senior center. I think that would be fine. Okay, any other corrections?
How about our next meeting next month? Will it be here or at the senior center?
We don't know yet.
Oh, okay,
We'll see. We have to,
okay.
we'll see how it goes today. In our new digs here, yes.
Will
Okay, any
Kathy be
other-
at that meeting?
Pardon?
Will Kathy be at the meeting?
On the workshop, yes.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, so we accept these, yes. Okay. Gift fund. We have the end of the year. We came out with more money than we started with, which is nice. We started with, where am I here? There we are.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
$42,875.77. And we ending up with $46,157.93. So Barbara and I, we're gonna get together and go over the fiscal 18 expenditures and donations and things. We'll try to get that sometime, maybe before the next meeting.
Sure.
We'll see if we can work on that.
Louise, I have a question.
Yes,
At one of our earlier meetings, we had talked about establishing guidelines for the gift fund.
yeah.
Do we have an update on that?
We have not, that has not happened, and then Susan was part of that, and she is no longer with us, so I think we have to relook at that. And Barbara was working with Susan. Does anybody else want to take part in that? Well, I can see if I can, maybe when Barbara and I get together and look at the fiscal year 18, we can go over some guidelines and see. You know, we had talked about the differential funds and the memoriam ones, as well as just the general donations and how they're used, and so I think, you know, we should look into that and see.
Because I think that so that we won't get questioned if we spent money from this account for something, that, well, you know, that's not what I intended it for, that kind
Well,
of stuff.
that's what we need to clarify,
Yeah.
is how these funds are expended, yes.
And,
Do
I'm
do
sorry.
individuals indicate when they're donating, if they want it for a specific reason, or is it just a general donation?
Some people do, so, especially in memoriam, you know, and we have talked previously about differentiating between those who give in memoriam and others who just make a general donation. But those are for basically any usage in the senior center. And we kind of feel that the in memoriam ones should be something special.
So when you're doing your accounting, can you set up just line items that are very specific to what the donation is?
Currently, the way the gift account is set up, it all goes into
Just
one
one fund.
account. So accounting doesn't differentiate, but where we try to keep track of it differently on a spreadsheet, we can go into more detail than what accounting does. So we could, but it would be informal, just with our own record keeping to supplement what accounting's doing for us.
You were going back with, and how far have we gotten?
I still am only about halfway through. So of the 10 years, I've gotten through 5 of the
Okay.
years. Just so, what I'd like to do is be able to give you and Barbara just kind of a summary sheet, you know, like this for each year. How much came in, what was spent on what, and what the donations were that came in. And speaking of accounting, Mary Thompson, you know, her offer still stands if you'd like to have her join you. She can tell you about some of the other gift accounts that the different departments have and how they're operating.
Okay, good.
For
Thank you.
clarification.
Thank you. Yes. So, any more discussion on the gift account? Okay. We have the formula grant. The only question I have are what are the transportation slips?
We use it's not a carbon copy, but they're slips that you write through, and that way we have 2 sets when people call in to make a transportation request.
Oh, they're oh, okay, that's why I wasn't sure how they were used.
Yeah,
For
so,
every trip, then you need a slip.
right. So depending on the volume, we usually need to order them a few times a year. And we usually take it out of, you know, office supplies, but where we had the money to work with, it was a good way to use up the rest of the formula.
Good, okay. Now, the route match software, that's yearly?
That's a portion of it yearly, but where we had enough to cover that totally in the budget, we didn't have to go to the formula for that at all. Last year, we did use a part of the formula to cover the subscription fee, but this year, everything was able to fit under our regular
Oh,
budget,
good.
because we had increased
Yes.
last year to cover the software expenses we have 3 different I guess you would call it, user, software, fees that we have to pay annually. And, one of them had gone up, so last year we took the balance out of the formula, but this year, nobody went up, we'll see what happens this year. But, so it was all able to be covered under the town account.
Was the town account going to pay for anything towards the office supplies?
Well, that was something Louise had fought for, because we have a line item for,
That's right.
our line item in the budget for office supplies.
Right.
And we've always had one in the formula grant for anything that goes over, and it's always been an uneven amount to kind of make up the difference, that we always come up with an odd amount because of what goes into salaries. And Louise had tried to argue the point that it should all come under the town.
Right, I remember that.
But she didn't get her wish.
Didn't prevail this year.
Oh,
It's always next year.
She'll try again.
It's always next year we could go again.
we should have all been there to back you.
We'll keep trying, yeah.
Is
so.
there, did you have what was the reasoning to ask for the town as opposed to not ask for the town to cover that?
We use the formula money for more inside the, senior center, things that we need to purchase and that kind of thing, rather than to go for supplies.
Okay.
Particularly when we start talking later on in the agenda with some dementia-friendly initiatives that we're talking about, those things are allowed under the formula.
Okay.
So the more mundane, routine things that we can move to the town line items, the more it frees up for the formula that we can spend on things that we can't put in the town budget.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
so that's fine, so, when the budget comes along in a couple of months, we'll look at it again, yes. Any other comments about the formula grant?
I don't know if Virginia is aware of how they come up with the formula amount, dollars, that we are given. It all depends on how much per senior the government allows.
Okay.
Right now, it's $9.70 per senior, and so this was the amount.
and that's based off of the 2010 census. So they go by the federal census versus the
town
town,
census.
which has always been a big beef with the communities, because at the time of the 2010 census, this figure went into effect in 2012. We had 6,390 seniors, and we have over 8,000 now. So there's quite a discrepancy. So what the state has been trying to do to make up that discrepancy is give incremental increases every year, as opposed to just doing a big jump every decade. So that's been helpful.
So when would you have to wait for the next bump in recognition of how many seniors actually live in the town?
Not until the 2020 census, and then it takes them about 24 months to finalize all that. So we wouldn't see an actual updated figure till 2022.
So,
Yeah.
these are our state funds,
Okay.
yes.
So the bills did not pass, the 559, was it, in the, remember we were going to talk to our legislators and,
They did.
Okay.
But they're still working on the actual figures. So I called, our legislative advisory contacted MCOA yesterday to see what the latest news was. And they're hoping it'll flush out to be $11 per senior. The backup figure is 10 or 10.50. We're being asked if we're gonna start, divvying up, what our FY19 budget's gonna look like, to use those figures. And then that way we already have a budget ready to go as soon as we get a figure. So I'm hoping for next month that I can provide you with what we're thinking of as far as if we do 10, 10.50, or 11. But hopefully we'll actually have an answer next month. But seeing it's still summer, I'm not gonna hold my breath.
So that'll go into effect right away?
Yes, but we,
As soon as the legislature passed, they haven't passed the
Oh,
budget.
right.
yet.
no.
Because, yeah, that's right, the budget hasn't passed
But
yet.
we
So that's why, until that's passed, we will not know for sure.
But we typically don't see the funds until December. So they
that's what I was
usually give us
wondering.
2 payments. They usually give us one in December and then one after the fiscal year closes.
Well, that'd be great, because actually this $9.70 per senior was a decrease.
Yes.
Yes.
Previous year, we had gotten
This past year
$10
was
and
a
they
decrease,
decreased us
so we didn't
instead of
have that
increased
one.
us.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else in the formula grant? Okay. Revolving account. This is the one that we are wondering where the money's coming from, or where we're going to get the money. We started last year with $111,334, and we ended the fiscal year with $81,000. So we lost $30,000. We didn't lose it. We know where it went. But, the only deposits we had were those from the fairs, the
Correct.
3,900. Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
The Department of Transportation is promising us 20,000. It's in the mail. So when the mail's going to get here, we don't know
Yeah.
yet. And,
Heard that before, it's in the
and
mail.
the Shrewsbury Housing Authority is giving us something maybe. What's the status of that, Sharon?
They have their meeting next week, next Tuesday, the 17th. And their board is supposed to vote on the agreement that we're supposedly, hopefully going to have no problem passing, and then they can start reimbursing us for the bills that we've been giving them. So, and they're on a different fiscal year as well, so they're not
Oh, okay.
the
So that-
June 30th like us.
It didn't impact us, which was, we were
No.
concerned about, that we would lose the money if we didn't get it in by June 30th.
And
so.
from what I understood from Kelly, I could be mistaken, but it sounds as though the funds come from a different type of account, almost like our gift account, where the funds are just kind of there. That they take money that comes in from state and their federal sources, but then they're in a different kind of a discretionary account. So it sounds like there's flexibility there, thank
How
goodness.
much do we usually get from them a year?
15.
15,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
And do
So-
they use a formula too to determine how much they're giving you?
In the
Allocation, no?
in the past, no, but that's one of the things that Kelly, the director over at the Housing Authority, said that her board has been considering either doing things either per ride. She said they've been kicking around a few different ideas. Right now, they supplement anyone who lives in housing, their rides by a quarter. She said they've been thinking of perhaps covering all the cost to try to help better assist folks where, funds are so tight. Or perhaps just based on ridership. But in the past, it was just per month. They originally had given us $1,000 a month, so $12,000 a year, and then additional $3,000 to supplement the fares. So we'll see what they want to do now. Apparently, they had a big audit, and the auditor thought it wasn't more, it needed to have more detail than, I guess, what they wanted to see in that type of discretionary spending. So that's what we're trying to figure out, is how it can be okay for their audit and be okay with the RTA and the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission because of the different places the buses come from and the funds
Right.
that get mixed together, but.
So if we get the 20,000 from the DOT and then the 15,000 from the Housing
Housing
Authority,
Authority.
that'll put us above what we started with
Right.
this year, which would be
Right.
great. And we'd have that extra, if we get the extra van. We'll see how that goes, yeah.
And we did get, it'll show up in next month's report, but up at the top, where there was $1,000 expense for a conference that Cynthia attended, that just came in on Monday.
Oh,
So the $1,000 reimbursement that she got from that scholarship did come in.
Oh, good, good,
So, but that's not showing here because it only just came in.
yeah. Okay, any questions? Any comments? Okay. Thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome.
Senior Edition newsletter, Cliff,
Yeah,
good news.
good news, came through. It was very, very simple this month, so.
Oh, great.
Only had to touch one button, not two, to get to it.
Oh, that's it. So we'll keep our fingers crossed it's gonna work.
If it stays this way, it's perfect, it's really great.
Oh, that's good. There was a gentleman yesterday in the office looking to have his newsletter come electronically. I didn't say anything. I just I said, wait and see, yes.
Yeah, well,
thank
it was
you.
newsletter roulette for a while.
Well,
So is your newsletter, and your newsletter is probably also on your website?
Yes.
yes.
So, yeah, that's one of the things that we had been having a glitch with is we send it out electronically, but the email is just a link to the website,
Right.
Okay.
which was a source of the problem previously. So Cliff has kind of been our guinea pig to report back on
canary
how
in the
it
coal mine.
comes through, how it looks, does the link work, is it, sometimes it's,
Are you breathing?
sometimes he's gotten the email, but then it's not on the website, or vice versa, and, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Keep our fingers crossed. that
Yeah,
this-
it's just 2 months in a row it's been
2 months
good.
in a row,
Yeah.
wow. We'll go for 3. Oh, good. Okay,
The past ones are gonna be done? Are the past, the old ones, are they gonna be put on the website also for the people?
They should be,
Okay.
in fact. I'll
I
have to
didn't check
double-
that out. There
double
is a
check.
link in the email that asks you if you want to go to
The archive.
the archives, yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
But I
Yeah.
didn't do it, so I don't know what it got
That's a
me.
good question, because IT told me that they were gonna fix that, because that was another one of the problems, was that the archiving wasn't working properly. So it was deleting the issue before it even appeared, because the archive date was not correct.
Okay.
But they were supposed to be fixing that, so all the previous ones would display as well.
Okay.
So I'm glad you asked. I'll check and see if they've had a chance to do that yet.
Good, okay. Proofreading still has a lot to be desired. I know the proofreaders work very hard, Norma. I know you work hard on the proofreading.
And what's the,
We still have a lot of, I don't know, have you talked to Ken?
no, oh,
Have you, Sharon, talked to Ken about this, about the proofreading?
No, he actually had been away, so he only
what's
just
the
got back.
latest problem?
Well, there's still the same misspellings and some of it looks like nobody even read it. I mean, they're missing words or too many words or this kind of thing, you
Oh,
know.
really?
And I think, that, I don't know, that was part of my background, was proofreading. So I go through things very carefully. And I just, I find that, and in fact, we were talking about, one of the things people said about getting people interested in the senior center was to put a deliberate error in the newsletter and have somebody find it. And I said, well, we can't do that yet. We have to get the
Well,
the
now
newsletter.
I'm questioning whether some of the corrections that we found were actually corrected.
Well, that's the other point too, I said,
I would love to look back on these and have you point them out to me.
okay, why don't we do that, then we'll go through the newsletter and we'll make up one and we'll circle all the, and then have
I mean, we
have
have
the newsletter
proofreading-
committee look at it.
Right,
That'd be
right,
an
because
excellent
I
idea, yes,
would love to see that.
Yeah, because Linda checks all the things off as she corrects them, so.
And,
I mean, I don't know, I don't know.
and that's the other thing, maybe your process can be changed to make sure that the corrections are made.
That's what I'm wondering, I
Yes.
mean,
Because I know you work
it
hard at
bothers
it.
me to hear this, I mean.
Oh, I know, no, I understand, and it's nothing against, the
Yeah,
proofreaders,
right,
I
right.
know, because you work very hard and very diligently for a couple hours. I'm just wondering if you don't have enough time. I know last time you were kind of rushed because the
Well,
room
we're
was in
always
use.
rushed because of,
Somebody has to use the room,
Yes.
and also the timing,
Right,
to
right.
get it ready, so.
we have proofreading again next Wednesday. So,
What time do you proofread?
11:30
Until,
until we're kicked out.
no, that's what I'm saying, when do you,
We have to be out by 1,
so see, that's only an hour and a half,
Yes.
and that doesn't seem like enough
and,
time.
and we might not
For both.
start right at 11:30.
I know it.
Sometimes we don't have all the information that we have to proofread right away.
And that's the thing too. So I said, if you had the full newsletter And then I would think at least 2 hours, it's a 12-page, you know, and to refer back from the calendar to the articles to this kind of thing. I said, you need more time. I think that's probably part of it as well. So we'll try to work on it and see what we can come up with and so to improve it.
We should end up with a better product.
Yeah, well, that's it, you know, that I think, you know, it's, especially to me, the dates on the calendar and the times that don't coincide with the articles. And we've had several of those kind of things happening in recent months, you know, and and to cross-reference.
Okay, well, the only one that I'm aware of in thinking back is that Friends meeting. I wasn't aware of any others.
Well, there were 2 Friends meetings because it wasn't corrected in the next newsletter. So it was in May and in June both, those kind of thing, you know, so you just need to cross-reference.
Well, that's what we
A lot
try
of-
to do.
I know you do,
Okay.
and I know it, and that's why I
Was
said,
anything other than the Friends meetings?
I find a lot of, just reading the articles.
No, but I mean the times.
I don't know.
Okay.
As I said, that was what I was particular, because it created a problem. Some people came at 11:30.
Yeah, right, I'm aware of that, right.
And I said, no, it's not till 1 o'clock.
Lois?
Yes, Shashi?
I have actually 2 questions. One is, are we finding grammatical spelling mistakes? Are we complaining about that in the proofreading? Or are there factual inaccuracies, like the time and date and so on?
It's a combination. It's a
Because
combination of both.
the things like spelling mistakes and so on, we can live with almost. Whereas inaccuracies are a problem. The other thing is, would it be possible to send out an advance copy to the people who actually are involved, like Dr. C. Scalam or whoever it is? They would get an advance copy saying, this is next month's newsletter, please look at what you're involved in. Is that possible at all?
I don't know.
No, because as soon as the proofreaders are done, Linda makes all the corrections, and then we send it right to the printer.
That's because we are so close to the end of the month?
To
Well,
the
in
deadline-
order
to the deadline, yeah.
get the turnaround for the printing.
So the only way we could do that is if we had the proofreading done a lot earlier.
Which means we'd have to get the submissions from everybody a lot earlier, which is usually what the problem is.
Yeah.
And trying to get everything in by, because there's a lot of things that
Because-
we're not able to include as it is because they come in after the deadline or we're made aware of them after
Right,
the deadline.
right, the submissions aren't always submitted by the
Right.
By
deadline.
the time, yeah, by the time they,
So how much time is there between the time you finish the review and it actually gets to the printer? All of this is done electronically, I
day.
hope.
Yeah, it's within a few hours,
Yeah,
because as soon as Linda finishes.
There isn't time for someone who wrote an article or whatever it is to say,
no,
No,
and that's the
oh,
problem.
well,
I have a question.
Yes,
Why does it have to be in that particular room to proofread if they're getting kicked out?
probably the only space available.
well, we need a table, a space in front of each of us to be able to put out the newsletter, you know?
Right. Could you
and
meet
turn the
at the old,
pages.
selectmen's room or in this room?
I know they've
Well-
met in side B before, and they, I don't remember if you were at that particular review, but folks said the acoustics, because that room is so big, it made it hard for the discussions.
Oh, okay.
The size of the conference room seems to be nice. The activity that comes in after is the mindfulness meditation, and where that group is growing so large, Walter has said maybe they should go into side B, because if they get many more people, they would need that space anyway. So that might be something that, we can discuss.
That might work out.
That sounds like a solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What activity goes on inside B at that time? At the time that meditation usually is? Off the top of my head, I don't know.
I'm sorry.
But,
meditation is Wednesday
Exercise. It
afternoons.
would be side A.
there's,
Side B is exercise.
there's bridge.
On Wednesday afternoon?
Wednesday afternoon, there's bridge in side B.
I know, it's Dr. C's Pilates class.
beginner's bridge is at 12:30.
That's inside A, yeah, so that wouldn't
Pilates.
work. Bridge is inside A, Pilates is
Oh, that's
inside
right.
B,
Inside B, right. And whist is in the craft room,
the craft room.
and we're in the lounge area, you know. So there's something, 2, 3, 4, 5 things going on at 1 o'clock
Busy day.
on Wednesday.
Yeah,
That's why we need more room.
yeah, right.
It's a good example of why we need to enlarge our senior center and get some more rooms, especially meeting rooms. We only have one conference room that, you know, and when 3 or 4 groups want to use it, then,
So is that a building that you actually could expand? Do you have space to expand? Or would you actually have to go someplace else?
we're hoping that we can expand it. That's one of our, we're going to, we'll get to it here in a little while, a feasibility study. We're going to request this fall to check on, but we'll be getting that, it's on the agenda, so we'll get to that in a little bit, though. But anyhow, I think, Norma, you're right, we'll go through and find out, and then show it
Right,
to the newsletter
right, right.
committee and see if we can work out it that way. And then to make sure that the corrections
I mean,
put in there,
right, because
So-
if we're shown where we're missing things,
that's right.
then we'd be more vigilant
that's
and
right.
perhaps correct that. But I
Yeah.
mean, if,
No, I know it, no, I understand.
yeah.
I said, you work very hard, and it's a great group of people that do that, you know, we're not saying, we're not
Yeah, right,
faulting
right.
you by any means, you know, it's just a process that we need to correct.
Especially if they're getting rushed.
Yes.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Right,
is,
and,
you know.
and I'm not saying that we won't miss something.
Oh, no,
I
no.
mean, you know, we're not perfect, but to have too many errors, it's
Right.
not, yeah.
And that leads us to our next thing, is the
Before you
assist,
leave
oh,
that,
I'm sorry,
uh,
yes.
I'm still on my electronic kick. I still think that if the reviewers got it, let's say the night before, and had a chance to look at it before they came to the review, maybe a lot of things will be spotted sooner. Because one of the things you can do electronically is make it bigger.
Yeah, if they got it before the proofreaders got it, that would be a
If they
whole
got
nother.
it a day
that would-
early. Yeah, if they got it a little bit early, they can look
Yeah.
at it at home before they come to the actual proofreading.
That's a very good solution, that's a good idea. Yeah.
And I could
Consider that.
deliver it to you.
See if- see if
I
you
don't
can-
know if everybody has,
Besides Norma.
Well,
I don't know.
Of course, one good thing, when we're all initially looking at the same era, so to speak, we can toss it back and forth, meaning
Right.
one person can say, gee, I would like it to say, you know, read this way, and someone else pipe in and say, well, you know, don't you think it'd be even better if it was this way? You know, which is good, to be able to do it that way,
But if
all
the
at
person-
once.
If the person who wrote the article looked at it first and could pick up any kind of things, and then the proofreaders would get it to
Well,
have your chance.
I'd like to think that the person that writes the article does look at it. I mean, how can you write an article and
No,
not
I
look
mean,
at it?
after it's put in its form for the newsletter. If it's been translated from, if the editor has put it in correctly, sometime, you know, we all make mistakes in putting things.
The format, to
Yes.
check on the format, to see whether the format is the way they wanted it.
Well, there are certain articles that we don't touch. Really, I mean, really, there are certain articles that we're told, leave it the way it is, the person doesn't like things
Well-
touched, da-da-da-da-da, and we don't. So I don't know if those are the articles that you're finding
Well, we'll
things in.
have to find
Or
out.
not.
We'll find
Well, that's
out.
why I'd really like to know, just,
Yes, no, I
you know.
understand, yeah. Cliff, did you have?
Yeah, no, just that I had checked while we were talking about other things here, I checked the archiving, and that's great. That's
Oh,
good, too.
good.
oh, good.
Oh,
The
good,
email had a link to the archive, and I
everything's
hit it,
there.
and everything
Oh,
opens up,
Good,
so,
I can cross that off.
looking good.
Well, then, the
Excuse
other.
me, Before
yes.
we move on, I wanted to answer Virginia's observation about expansion. Yes, there is a plan for expansion, but we're in the queue. Beale School comes first, then the police station. And then if there's money left and the budget and the economy is still doing well, then we're in the queue.
when I was talking earlier, I mentioned that part of the area that I work in is called Neshoba Valley. And so that includes towns like Groton and Shirley. And Groton just got approval, so I say this out loud, for $1 million new building because the building they're in is, I mean, you have at least a very nice building. This was just a really horrible building. But anyway, are there any large companies in the area that would donate, like out in Townsend, where Sterlite is prominent? They donated money. They don't actually donate land for a building. And it's really beautiful. It's a little small, so I guess that's why people don't complain about it. But are there other options for how you could get an expansion funded?
Well, those are the things we're gonna have to look into. So we need the feasibility study first.
Right, to look at it.
Yeah. And
So feasibility from the standpoint of, can the building be expanded?
well, it's a two-prong. Well, I said we're gonna get to that later.
Okay.
Let's go back to this, because I wanted to bring up the assistant editor we mentioned last time.
Yes.
Have you had a chance to talk to the man you said that might be interested in doing that?
No, but I did shoot him an email, so, I'll email him again and see. I know he does come in for the meal site too, so I can always give Beth a heads up to capture him the next time he's in, if I haven't heard from him.
Because I think, if, maybe this would help also with the proofreading kind of thing, if we had another set of eyes and this kind of thing, and maybe to share the responsibilities, because I know Linda works so hard on putting it together, the editor, that she really works so hard.
Have you mentioned this to Linda, the editor?
Did you talk to her, Sharon?
No, I haven't.
You might want to mention to her. I thought you were going to do that, no.
Yeah,
so-
no, I think she should be
Yeah, tell her
told
that
about
we're
this.
looking- Yeah, if you'd mention that to her, Sharon, and as I said, it's to her benefit, we think,
Yeah,
because,
yeah, I'd like her to be in on this too, though, really,
Yeah.
her input.
as Shashi said, she's the only one that knows how to do all these things electronically. And if she gets sick or whatever kind of things, we need someone there to, and this person could be used in many different ways too, as well.
But I do have to say that she works very hard at it,
Oh,
and
she
she
does.
does a good job.
She does a
really.
very
Yeah.
good job. She does an excellent job, in putting it all together, so. Okay, anything else with the newsletter? Okay, self-assessment. The survey, Sharon, in 10 words or less.
It did go out. It went out within the time frame of the MCOA grant, so we're in the process of getting reimbursed for the costs of that. And we've got almost 150 responses that have come in so far, and Ethan is tallying them up, and
Oh, good.
yeah, so
They are,
we'll see.
they're coming to the senior center and not to CMAA. Would you explain that? I was surprised at that, because I understood the last meeting that they were going to go directly to CMAA.
There's two different things. For running them through our postage meter, the treasurer's office felt more comfortable having it be, a town mailing with it coming back to the town if it was being run through their postage meter, which we had, discussions about the whole postage issue when we were talking about everything with the survey. Also, CMAA is doing additional surveys for the 61 cities and towns in the region. And one of the things that Bob Dwyer and Ethan Belding at the Central Mass Agency on Aging worried is they didn't want the surveys to get combined and mixed up. Because theirs, for the survey they specifically are doing, are coming, returning to the Central Mass Agency on Aging, and they're different surveys than what ours are.
When did they decide they didn't want it? I mean, I understood, at the June meeting that it was going to go to them, that they said they would accept it.
It was probably around the time that we were talking about running everything through the postage meter and whose meter it was gonna run through. When we, determined that it would have to go through here and be prepaid.
So you take them down there?
I've run them over to Ethan so far. Yeah, because when I saw you yesterday, I just come back from running them over to him.
So they didn't use a tool like SurveyMonkey so that it could come back electronically? Everything is being done by paper?
Right. Yeah, because not everybody gets it electronically, and there would be no way to do a scientific sample.
Well, but I mean, you could, the thing is, you could send a link to someone and just say, go to a link, and then you'd pull up the survey, and it electronically would go, and the Survey Monkey's that's great, because it actually tabulates for you.
Yeah, I think this was far too complex a questionnaire to go through SurveyMonkey. They wouldn't handle that.
So there was too much in terms of actually not verbalizing, but, making more statements than yes, no, or check off a box.
Yeah, and just the length of it. There's a limitation as to how, oh,
65?
Oh my gosh, okay, yeah, that's enormous, yes.
Yeah. But,
So, what are you using for an actual deadline to, some of the surveys might be coming in dribs and drabs, but I mean, at what point are you gonna have a cutoff date so you'll be able to compile everything?
I would think it would have to be probably next week, because MCOA's report that they're gonna need, will have to have a certain amount of data.
Well, that's what I was
would-
wondering.
We wouldn't be able to keep changing it. So I would think based on.
So how much time are they giving individuals, like less than a month to get all this back to you?
So how many responses did you say we have so far?
Close to 150.
Just 150 out of 1,000.
have we had any that have been returned undeliverable?
Not many. I want to say it was 17. It was less than 2 dozen. I was surprised. I thought that there'd be more, but there wasn't many, which was good.
Good, good.
I was hoping we'd get half of them back.
I have a
Well,
que-
I'm hoping so too.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Katie?
I have a two-pronged question. Number one, are these being opened here? Or are
No.
they being opened there?
No, they're just all brought over to the Central Mass Agency on Aging.
Okay, the other question I have, you were talking about, the surveys having to, come back here because of the treasurers, because the treasurer wanted them back in our house instead of with Ethan?
Well, running them through the postage meter to have the return addresses, it has the town, the Shrewsbury Council on Aging, it has our town address on it. So if they were doing a prepaid postage envelope, but going to a different agency, that was something they just didn't feel, it could cause an issue as far as saying, well, whose mailing is this?
How often are you taking them to Ethan?
So far, I've done two runs to him.
2 runs.
Does Ethan know that our deadline is the 17th?
Yeah, he has a whole copy of the Massachusetts Council on Aging grant.
Okay, oh,
So-
good,
So
good.
he's using all of that
Okay, good.
as
So
a
he's-
template too.
In what form is the report going to be made, do you know?
I don't know. I know he's tabulating everything in Excel. So that's all I know right now.
Sharon, during one of these runs, can you get the Dr. Conroy and Laura's surveys and the surveys from the Shrewsbury, Spirit of Shrewsbury? Could you get those and get them back? So that we
We
can,
have those?
No, I asked him, I told him that we were gonna be wanting those back.
Okay,
So,
yeah, we better
yeah.
get those so we can get to work on them.
Yeah,
you
just
should be
so
able to
they
pick
don't,
them up.
and that way they don't get mixed up in their additional surveys they're getting from their
Well, that's it,
61
I said I
cities
don't
and
want them to
towns.
get mixed up in the other survey, so, yeah. Maybe you can, next time you drop them off, tell them you want to pick up the others. Thank you. Okay, any other questions about the survey?
Well, I have a question about the survey. Who's going to be tabulating and when do we expect to see the results?
Well, that's the thing, Ethan is supposed to be tabulating them. And he's supposed to have them done by the 17th of July, which is next Tuesday?
That's
Yes.
not probably going to happen, right?
Well, by MCOA, with the grant, they have to have a report by the 17th for the $1,000 we got. So,
Regardless of the number of people who return them.
so for
by
the
the 16th of-
150 that we have returned, apparently we will get a report on those.
Less
I
than
don't-
10%. That's just over 10%.
are they still coming in, or has it just, okay,
Yeah, we had 37 come back this morning.
oh, So it looks, we're not just, the 150 is not the end.
No,
result.
I, like Norma said, Norma's hoping for half, I am too. I'm hoping we'll get at least a 50% return,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so.
That's, might be a little unrealistic, but,
We can
but we
hope.
can hope for it.
If it comes in dribs and drabs, how is he going to tabulate?
I don't know.
I have no idea. It's not my field. I have no idea how you do that.
Well, if they have set up something on the computer, and if somebody can just add it, the computer can figure out the totals as it goes along.
Keeps adding yeah,
That shouldn't be it.
right.
Hopefully, we're hoping it's gonna get done by the 17th.
See, there really, to my mind, there are really two questions. One is just tallying up the numbers. That the computer can do. But to query the database and say, how many people in this range are going to be this and that? How many people, that kind of information, to ask the right kind of questions and set up the right kind of queries, that takes a little bit more work.
And that's what we're concerned about.
So by next month, we'll have all the answers, and we'll, and we'll be able to decide
Putting it into
which
Excel.
things
You really
really
can.
need
They're
working
not
on.
using Excel probably, right?
can
They're not using
Well,
She said he was using Excel.
using Excel.
Oh, they were?
He's-
I'm sorry?
Sharon said that they were using Excel.
Yes.
Well, yes, but it's what you set up in order to actually take all that data and not just have a big spreadsheet that has a
Right.
bunch of numbers on it, which is, I mean, that's usually why SurveyMonkey is great, because it goes back and gives you graphs and all sorts of little extra tidbits, but, you know, given the volume of questions, and if there's actual verbal I mean, not verbal answers, but some kind of written answer, that the part that's kind of interesting to me is that you're gonna have someone that has to sit there and go through all actual comments and actually lay out what those comments are. And actually, just an extension of this, so when you get this data back, and let's say I'm just gonna throw out a couple thoughts. So let's say a lot of concern about housing or affordability, since that just comes back here, do you bring in planning, like who else comes in then to start looking at this information, if it's gonna be relevant to the community and the people who are, you're querying, I guess?
Well, it's gonna be interesting, to say the least, to see what we get, because, yes, Barbara?
Can we put an announcement on that Channel 26 to alert the people that got that survey to please, please, please fill it
Get the
out?
survey done.
Get it done?
That would be a good
soon.
idea.
Yeah,
Is that a possibility?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see why it wouldn't be.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good idea, to get them to mail them back if they haven't, yes.
I'm looking at a copy of the survey here, and there's not a lot of opportunity for people to write a lot of stuff that, they may want, there are a number of places, you check boxes, and there are a number of places where it says other, where you put a one-word answer in. It's not like you're inviting people to write an essay.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking to Mike.
let's hope, yeah.
Before Cliffy actually said that, I didn't want to mention it, but there aren't many places that they'll ask for your opinion type
Right.
thing.
So what's
Okay.
the objective of this survey?
To help with our strategic planning. So it was started as part of our strategic planning process.
Strategic planning for the COA? Okay. And is it relevant to the town? So you're looking at it from the standpoint of how do you better serve the community?
And what's needed that we're not providing?
Yeah,
Or
that's
how
part
can
of
we
our
provide it
strategic-
better?
Yeah, that's part of our strategic planning, which we will get into on the 25th, which you're invited to. Yeah, and that's the next thing on our thing here. It's July 25th, and we're meeting with Kathy as well as the staff. It's the first time that we have met. The staff has been meeting separately from the board. And so we're going to put all of our ideas, and Kathy Meyer is our facilitator for the strategic plan. So, we have met twice without her, just the board. And we put together our ideas, and then, so we'll see on the 25th how we compare with or if we agree with the staff, or
So-
if they agree with us. I don't know which is which, you know.
So this is actually going to be a dual meeting on the 25th?
Yes, we'll be all together. And Kathy is supposed to get to us before then, her compilation of the two,
Right, if we had some idea of what the staff has come up with ahead of time.
well, she's gonna compile what the staff and what we did. She's gonna compile it all into one document.
And we'll get it ahead of time.
We're supposed to get it ahead of time. So we have a couple weeks, so.
That'll be
hopefully-
interesting.
Hopefully by next week, we will get it. And so we'll have time to go over it and look at it before the 25th. So, okay? Transportation. We have several different things. The driver's survey was very interesting. Have we gotten all the returns back from that?
I'd have to double check with Cynthia. I'm not positive, because we've had a few drivers that have been away, but I think everyone's gotten it.
Yes, it's quite a bit different than the first one we saw.
Well, the additional questions, again, are things that have been on the radar as far as, things that are outside of what we're doing with choices the RTA is making in regard to doing away with tickets.
I see that.
That's
yeah.
more than, right now, more people use tickets than they do cash. So that'll be a big change. And then I think I had mentioned last month about we currently use the Nextel push-to-talk phones through Sprint, and that technology will be going away in the spring. And prior to having that, we used to have radios, and so now we're revisiting, looking at going back to radios as a way of doing the instant communication. So that's one of the things that we put in the survey too, because some of the drivers have said, I don't mind just using my cell phone, that you can just do that. And that would obviously be cheaper for the town. But, obviously we prefer to have things as hands-free as possible, so.
Correct.
And then if they're using their cell phones, we ideally should be giving them some kind of a stipend towards, the cell phone use. So we'll see how that plays out too.
We had talked about the route match. Did you check and see if they had anything about, communication?
I know Cynthia has a call into the person that's in charge of the tablets. Because as far as I know, it's through the tablets. But I can double check and see if she's found out anything
Yeah.
further. But last I knew, the only thing was through, use of the tablets if people had those, which again,
Instead of paper, yeah.
the people, well, no, as far as you can send alerts through it.
Right,
if people are
yes,
using
but-
it and so on. But, again, Shrewsbury, SCM Elder Bus, that operates in southern Worcester County, they also use Route Match, and they opted not to use the tablets.
No, I understand. We talked about that last time.
Yeah, and
And,
they do the actual radios,
but they have a much larger fleet than we do.
Yeah, they have
and
16
that's the other thing
vehicles.
too. You have to look at the different,
yeah.
No, I would like to see what Route Match has. I would think they would have some kind of communication, element. I mean, if you're dealing with drivers and, trips and things, you would have to have some way to communicate with the drivers that are there. So, did Cynthia ask them specifically that question?
I can double check. I don't know. I know what she had talked about was just trying to find out more features, if they were different than what she was aware of that the tablets were able to do.
Yeah, have her just ask them if they have anything connected to, I mean, we pay, what, $1,300 a year to use this Route Match. I don't know how much it cost initially,
It was,
quite a few thousand.
oh, yes.
And so, I mean, I think that whatever they have that we want to use, if she asks
So
us.
what does Route Match do? Does it, it makes sure that the driver gets to the right location, or what's it for?
We primarily use it to do the scheduling of the vehicles and
Okay.
create the manifest for each vehicle. So it generates a manifest of each pickup, each drop-off for each of the passengers.
And so it's a sharing thing where it's a central location? And then
Yeah,
and it delivers back to you what the schedule is?
Right, so it's web-based, and we pay the subscription fee to use the software, and basically, we enter the trips in, and then, you're able to sort them onto which vehicles you want to put them in, and then based on people's appointment times and what time they want to be returned, it helps formulate the schedules.
Well, we're thinking that because it's such a widely used thing, that there must be, well, to me, it seems like there would be a communication element within it. But I said, unless we check it out, I said, I don't think we're getting our money's worth, when we're
So-
not using all the parts of it as
And-
well.
So is this a Worcester-based package, or this is like regional? How is it?
They're actually national,
It's
and
national.
Okay.
they're based out of Atlanta.
Okay,
And one of the features that they do promote, but we have it as part of the package, is you get a tablet for each vehicle,
okay.
so that you can kind of like scroll through as opposed and not deal with paper. We still are using paper, as is SCM Elderbus, which is much bigger. And as I said, there's a communication module that you can use in that works kind of like Messenger. But again, we haven't used that because, again, it would be visual versus audio. So whether or not they've changed that or have added a different thing to that is
Does
what
any
I'll
of the
have to
other
double
towns
check on.
around you use anything different that they found more user-friendly or more efficient? Or is this something that a lot of the other, what I meant was, let's say Northborough or Worcester or whatever, some other town, West Boylston, do they use something similar to this? Or you just selected it because you did a search and this was the best option for this town?
For the size that we are, with only the 3 buses,
Okay.
it was the best option for us. Worcester uses a much more complicated software because they have their fixed route buses as well as their
Okay.
smaller buses. And the smaller towns are also served by them under what they call a mobility management model. So the towns of Auburn and
Agreed.
Grafton are rolled under them.
Okay.
Excuse me,
How much audio is available to the driver?
how much what?
Audio, I mean, do they have to stop to
I don't know.
Not
use
with
all
the,
this?
not with the radios, the push-to-talk, they're able to just.
Oh, they have radios?
Yes,
Well, they're like,
right now.
it's like a walkie-talkie. It's a
And,
cell phone.
and they have this?
Right,
in
but
use.
But the technology is being discontinued in the spring by Sprint.
Oh, so what good is it?
I had a question.
Yes.
Has Cynthia explored all the features of this route match, or are there features in that we don't know anything about?
There is a lot more than what we currently use, based on if you're doing, again, you can use it for like a fixed bus route system too. There's all types of different modules, some which wouldn't pertain to us anyway. But yeah, it's,
But those that pertain to us, since we are already paying into it, there must be features which will be beneficial for us. That, I think that needs to be looked into.
That was my point, that let's get the most out of what we're paying for, So I would have Cynthia directly, you said she put a call into them, so have her directly ask that specific question about communication.
I have a
Yes,
question.
I'm sorry, yes.
How old are the tablets we have right now?
I think they're going on 4 years old, because
We've
we,
never used them.
Never used them, no.
no.
Are they would they be up to date software-wise?
Yeah, they do monthly updates. So, because Cynthia did ask Route Match that if we were to start using them, would they still be, usable? And they said, yes, they do regular monthly updates. So the tablets that we got when we, started using the software are still what they give.
So are they plugged into a system, a software system, so that all these updates are done when they're done by route match?
When Cynthia last talked to them, she plugged them in to make sure that everything worked the way it was supposed to and that all the updates downloaded. And she ran it through the technician she
And do
talked to.
those tablets have an audio feature or anything that you could communicate with? I'm sorry.
That's the exact question I was gonna
Okay,
ask.
good.
And when we taught at the, Even Oak Middle, the tablets had audio.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the children use most.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I bet it even already has the audio.
that's what I think that, I think there are things there that we just are not using. Yes, Virginia?
Oh, it's the
Yeah.
same thing,
It's the
and
same
actually,
thing.
if it's a tablet, if there was anything visual, you could actually make the font large enough so that if you're trying to communicate with something, it's easy to see, and if it's mounted, same thing for hands-free, but you then be able to communicate that way without, and sign off, better than using your cell phone, and certainly better than using a walkie-talkie.
Yeah, Shashi?
Actually, it seems to me that we're in a similar situation with my senior center.
Yes, it is.
And I think we need to
Exactly.
do the same thing. We need to have somebody come in here with a vendor and says, here's the model you have, here's the software you have, and here's what it can do.
Yes.
I think we need that.
We do, and this is what I've mentioned several times to Sharon, to have, and especially, we've mentioned my senior center several times, and I want somebody to come in for that one. But also, I think for route match, I think we really need, and you said they're based out of Atlanta, but they must have representatives all through the country. They've got to have, you don't have a major company without representatives in each state.
Well, can you actually if you could Skype into somebody, you could do a presentation and just Skype it in.
Yeah,
And-
they do webinars and stuff like that.
Well, that's it, there's some way we could get that information from them, and I said I think we should all be part of that kind of not training, but informational
Yes.
kind of
Louise?
thing. Yes,
Perhaps we should all go look at their website and see what the features are that they're offering. I don't know, do they have a website? I presume they do.
They must.
Oh, yeah, both my senior center and Route Match have websites.
So maybe we should
we should go to
give
their,
ourselves an
you
action
can.
item to go read this.
Yeah,
that's
'cause
true too, that's true, yeah.
Well, particularly, my senior center's website is really fun because they have really interesting stats that they produce from all over the country because they're nationwide as well. And they also post a lot of YouTube videos of different things that are happening at different senior centers. So their website's actually
Can you
fun
send
to
us
go on.
Those
Links.
websites,
Yeah, I could send the links.
send them out to us, and then we can all look at ourselves and see,
Okay.
and see what we can find. But also, in the meantime, have you contacted my senior center?
Yes, and like I said, right now, at least they're not enthusiastic about sending an actual person. They're also, offering to do a webinar or something like that.
Well, I think we could do whatever they're willing to offer us. I think, we could accommodate. We'll see what they have, tell them, what we want to know, and see their best offer of what they want to do. And the same thing with route match. I would say, talk to somebody and just say, this is what we want to know, and how do we go about getting that information?
Because we still need to know what is going on, because you said that you hadn't fixed it, like Norma, and her numbers aren't right. So what are we doing to fix these numbers right now that are askew, if you will?
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. We need to have somebody, that's why I think if somebody could come and demonstrate, because the numbers are skewed, the people, the reporting kind of thing.
When you say numbers, you mean actual rides, type of rides, like what are the numbers that are
Well,
skewed?
this is for
This is
my
my
senior
senior
center. It's the program we have that people have a little card to check into the senior center.
Oh, okay, all right.
And so when they go through it, Norma's up there all the time. She's very active, and her numbers are way off. They don't acknowledge part of the
match.
times
Yeah.
that
Okay.
she's been there and all that kind of
When
thing.
our volunteer coordinator runs the reports, there's discrepancies. and
And there's
she's.
something wrong with the way it's being, you know,
Where it's tabulating or actually,
Yeah.
where it's recognizing that you have signed in.
yeah.
So
I
are they
think-
responsible?
Pardon?
Are they responsible to fix this?
I
My
don't know.
senior center?
I don't know anything about it really, and so, you know, I mean,
Who's-
some,
Yeah, who's managing that here now?
Stacy,
Stacy, isn't she?
Stacy is.
Then why isn't Stacy looking into this?
Well, she does, I mean, because she's had, when she tabulates all the volunteer hours, it's very, very time consuming, because right now, one of the things that she finds frustrating is, say, you volunteer, you know, doing this, and in the kitchen, and proofreading. It only will tabulate you once. So Stacy has to go in and, you know, pull the other ones and add them all together. And supposedly, the next time they do an upgrade on the system, that's supposed to be one of the things they've changed, that they're gonna be changing, but the last two upgrades, it hasn't been there. So she keeps, you know, waiting.
I would think they would be a natural, that they would, you know, accumulate everything, but I said, these are the things that we're gonna have to find out about, yeah.
There's another thing.
We'll work on them and see what we can find out.
Another thing that that senior centers have been requesting of my senior center is to be able to do the mailing component. Because, you know, most senior centers that are mailing are paying extra for the mailing software. And the, my senior center feature does have a mailing list feature, and it will do labels, but they're not barcoded for the post office.
Oh.
So,
That makes a difference, yeah.
you know, senior centers have been saying, you know, is this something that you can make part of your package so that we don't have to buy an additional software to do the mailing? But apparently there's some tedious post office approval process to be able to do the barcoding. But supposedly they're working on that too.
We're fortunate that our friends group does our mailing, so they
Yes.
have they got the permit and everything.
So, knowing that you can also view your, the senior newsletter online instead, is there something on each of the newsletters that says, you know, if you would prefer to just receive, you know, to just check online, and no longer be in the mailing list, to help you just reduce, because I'm sure there are plenty of people that would say, that's one less piece of paper,
Yes.
that I'm gonna end up at some point tossing into the whatever. You know, I would think that would be, I mean, a lot of places will ask you if you don't wanna receive this.
Yes,
It
yes.
mentions that in almost every newsletter. There
And-
is a
and-
little,
and-
yeah.
Yes,
And is
it's in
there,
there,
and how,
yes.
would you have to call, or do you actually email
No, you
somebody to
call.
say? You have to call.
And another factor is a majority of the seniors are not online.
Okay.
That's true.
Yes, you're right.
That's right.
Okay,
So of all 8,000, there's only a small number that actually would view it electronically?
Right.
Yeah, right now it's only about 300.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, so it's quite small.
all right.
And some of those people want to still receive
Yeah.
the paper. They
Some-
don't,
some people
they
do
want to
both.
do both.
All right.
I like the paper, but that's my personal.
Oh,
As you can tell, I like paper.
You can print it out yourself.
My house is full of paper. I love paper.
I do that.
Let's go on to the van. Speaking of transportation,
Yes.
the Department of Transportation, you sent in the thing. Would you explain to them about the replacement van and not a new van? I was very surprised with this information the other day.
Well, we were talking, Louise and I were talking with Kristen, and Kristen was saying, she thinks it's probably just a matter of semantics, but the new van will replace the current van that we have. So it's good for, the DOT allows you to replace a vehicle after 7 years or 100,000 miles, whichever happens first. So we've had that vehicle now 7 years, so we were eligible for a replacement. So the new van that we've applied for is to replace the one we have, but in the meantime, we can keep the one we have. So we will have 4 vehicles, and we've asked for funding to do a 4th vehicle part-time. So it was my understanding when we had talked to Kevin that the replacement vehicle that we were gonna request from the town would be to replace the old DOT vehicle for the next capital budget cycle. So Kristen was gonna find out from Kevin if that was in fact, you know, what he was saying when he met with us.
And,
was
and
my
how
understanding-
many seats will this replacement one have?
We requested 14.
Right, so even though it's up in a number, they will replace, it's more than just a replacement because you're asking for a bigger vehicle.
Yes,
And
you,
they'll go along with that.
yes, you can request, they give you 4 different types of vehicles to choose from.
Oh, okay.
So what's the fourth van gonna replace? The COA van?
Yes.
Or so we won't technically get a brand-new van, we'll be replacing a van. Is
So
that
you're
right?
getting, you're getting a new van, plus you're
We're
keeping
asking
a
for
van.
a new van
Okay,
from the town instead of a replacement van.
Plus, we are keeping the old van.
No, for the Department of Transportation, the grant that Sharon just sent in is going to replace the old one.
But we'll still
with the
have,
new one.
but we'll still
But
have
we'll
the old
still
one.
keep the old one, right. Then when we go to the town, we will request a new van
To replace that one.
to replace that one.
Okay.
I don't
So you're
know.
actually gonna get 2 vans.
Probably semantics, maybe Kristen's right. I was just very surprised
Yeah,
because
so our
my
goal is to
understanding,
get
when we
2
went to the
new,
Department of
vans, okay.
Transportation, we were asking for the fourth van. And instead, we're
So we'll end up
for-
with 4?
asking for the replacement of the
Right.
third van.
right.
And
That's the
I
goal,
was
is
just
to have
very
the 4.
surprised with the
And-
way the conversation went.
Louise, maybe,
Yes.
maybe it would clarify matters, at least for me, if I understood. Once the van is replaced, who does the old van belong to?
Us,
So technically, we have 4 vans.
yes.
Correct,
That's right.
correct.
And the 4th van also belongs to us. It's like that, I got a new car, but I didn't get rid of my old one, so technically it belongs to me. I may
Yes.
use it once or twice a year or whenever I
Yeah.
need to, but it just sits there most of the time as a backup, more or less, that we own.
So right away, we need more drivers.
But we need the fourth van
Right.
And do we
to not
have
just sit there, to be used.
Of course.
money to
So
pay
that's
for
what we're going to
more
be-
drivers? We
We're
do.
going to be asking for, in the fall,
Okay, so
we're
all
going to
this,
be asking for the fourth van.
Driver. A driver for the 4th van.
We're going to be asking for the fourth van. Because this one's not gonna last much longer. It's already had so much work done on it that it's not, it costs more
Or
than
then
it's
the
worth.
van for.
so how soon are we gonna get this replacement van?
Pardon?
How soon are we actually gonna get this replacement van?
Probably about 18 months.
Oh, okay, so it's
About
not
a year
really,
and a half process to get the van. And through the town, I don't know. And it may not even be approved, the capital expense. It's just something we put in.
so we have to hope that before that 18 months is up, that this van that will be replaced doesn't break down again.
That's right. Because it's just.
Like it
it's-
has.
It's so expensive now to fix it. We put, how many? 3,000 last year and something or other we had to get.
And then all the brakes had to be done, and that was $700.
So, I mean, if you add up all the money we've put into this old van, so. So anyhow, so that's where we are. We're just waiting to hear from the DOT. You said they accepted?
Yep, so we did get, an email saying that, everything, was in order, that there was nothing missing from the application, that they didn't need any supplemental information, and that it was being, processed to the next stage for review.
So if this van breaks down a couple of months from now, is there any possibility of us getting that van that they're promising us sooner than 18 months?
They have the process they have to go through.
And how much does a van cost?
64,000.
Hmm.
That's the
So-
that's the basic
So
van.
just a thought, because everybody seems to do this these days for everything and anything. Has the town thought about doing a GoFundMe page? I mean, have everybody in town donate $10 to the van.
Well, those are the things that we're gonna have to do. We'll see what kind of
idea.
we already have the approval
Have
from
people
the
go
DOT
GoFundMe
van.
just so
idea.
they can go take a
So,
trip somewhere. I mean, seriously.
And we can't ask for any money at all. The town can, and our friends group can.
Well, no, but I meant it would be through,
If through
some
somebody else,
other.
yeah. Not through us, yeah. We can just suggest things that we want done, but we cannot ask anybody for any money, so. But we'll see how it goes, we'll see, so we passed the first thing with the DOT, and so now we'll just wait and see in the fall.
And I apologize because I have a conference call to start shortly, so,
Yeah,
thanks.
Thank
Well, we thank you, Virginia,
Thank you,
for coming
Virginia.
today, and we look forward to seeing you.
Nice
Yes.
to meet you.
Very interesting, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and just to
Okay.
clarify about the driver, I did put in the DOT grant additional operating for an additional driver for the fourth van.
Oh, good.
So the way that it's written, it says, it's contingent upon funding of the fourth van. But so there's the one budget for the third van and then the additional funding if the fourth van, is approved. So there's two, so I personally don't think that there would be an issue because when we had our DOT review, we explained all that, back in May to the reviewers. And they thought based on our numbers and when they saw the vehicle and when we explained to them what we were doing, the reviewers said that, they thought that was a very reasonable request and that they were already putting their notes in for the review committee. So we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Also, we're going to, in the budget, the coming year, we will put in for the drivers' salaries, we will put in an extra driver, because if we get another van, we're gonna need at least another driver, so. If we have 4 vans on the road, we're gonna need more drivers.
Well, our funding now, the drivers are only for the RTA vehicles. The DOT funds the drivers for the DOT vehicle,
Yes,
so.
so that's what I mean, but the new van, if we get it, will be our own. So that will have to go through the town budget. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Okay. We talked about route match, good. The outreach,
Excuse me,
yes.
the item here says conference report. Is there a
Cynthia,
conference?
yes, we didn't get
We did not
Cynthia's.
get the conference report.
No. No, we haven't heard from Cynthia about her trip to Atlanta.
So Cynthia just asked me if I could get clarification from you folks, if you just want her to write a summary of the track that she attended and a copy of the certification that she received this time. She thought that's what she had done the last one, was when she had gotten the certification, she gave a copy of what,
Didn't she come in and talk to us?
I couldn't remember.
I don't think so.
I don't think so
I
either.
don't think she did either.
I don't know why, I thought she did. Maybe, I'm thinking of something else. Maybe I was thinking when we.
I
Because
don't know
as I
whether we
recall-
need to see the certification. We don't need to see the certification, we just need to know what were
did
the
you
things that went on in the conference.
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't need to see all that stuff, But, so, I don't know, to me, the best thing would be to have her come in and talk to us.
Yes.
I need to know, what are her takeaways from the conference? What would she like to share with us? What did you learn?
Yeah,
And how can we benefit from that?
Exactly.
yeah.
Okay, so I'll just ask her so you'd like for her to come in to the August meeting? I can
Yes.
have her prepare that.
You think that would be?
Yeah.
I mean, if she, I don't know how comfortable she is with writing, but if she wants to write, I think a written report would be okay.
If she came face to face with us, we would have questions which she might be able to
Question
answer.
and answer, right.
Yeah,
I'd like her to come.
Okay,
yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, good. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. All righty, outreach. We had talked about the meetings that Walter had. And I had mentioned last month if we could separate out the dementia-friendly meetings from his regular meetings, because you said there were quite a few of those.
Yes.
Does he keep those separate,
Yeah,
those figures?
in the report he gives me, he has it all broken down as to each meeting, he lists the date and what it was for.
Yeah, if you could ask him to put together that for us for the next meeting, it would be, I think, to be interesting to see how many, what we're doing, and, because that's part of the grant that you got as well.
Now, do you think, just as for the FY18 statistics, we added, the email-only,
Yes.
statistic, do you think it might make sense to add under the meetings, the breakdown,
Yes,
dementia-related, and that
I
way
would-
it could
I
be
would
broken out
yeah.
that way?
yes,
And then it'll just be an ongoing statistic.
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I would think so,
I'll,
yes, yeah.
So he can do that starting this month, and then it would be that way going
Could
forward.
we have, could he give us the
Yeah, he
fiscal
could-
18?
Yeah, he could go back and do that,
Yeah,
so that you have
just a
that,
to-
and then
just a
going
total,
forward, you'll
I
have it
think,
too.
to fiscal 18, and then from now on, do it a monthly kind of thing.
Okay.
I think that will work too, as well. Yes.
I had a question about the outreach. Is there any follow-up done on any of these?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Is there a follow-up once there's a referral, or is there a follow-up that the outreach coordinator does on any of these cases?
Usually, if he refers somebody to Elder Services, usually he'll follow up and, ask them, do they have any more questions? Did they find them to be helpful? Do they need any more help with anything?
Okay.
Okay, are there any questions about his report? And,
Could I ask one quick question?
yes,
The Are You Okay, I understand that that's been discontinued?
Yes, that happened a long time ago. We had some folks that we grandfathered in, that still call into the senior center each day. But that was a program that had been done with the police department. They had, actually gotten a program from an Eagle Scout, had fundraised for his Eagle Scout project to have the, Are You Okay computer system set up at the police station. And basically it was like robocalls, the Are You Okay computer, called people and checked to see if they were okay, and then it would print out for the dispatcher if, people didn't answer. And as our technology changed, the system became kind of flawed because it didn't recognize the answering machines. So you could be laying on the floor and your answering machine picks up and the Are You Okay computer would be like, oh, they're fine.
They're okay.
And nothing would print out. So we had to have people that had answering machines turn off their answering machines at night and then turn them back on after they got their Are You Okay call. And then, of course, they'd forget to turn them back on. And
yeah.
so that was a big turnoff for a lot of people. So back when Lieutenant Skloot was, before he had retired, he had been in charge of that computer system, and that had come online back in 1993. And I want to say it was around 2013, because I want to say it hung on for about 20 years. And he said it simply couldn't be upgraded
Yes.
any longer. So the Sheriff's Department still does an Are You Okay program, similar to what we had done here. So we met with the Sheriff's Department to see if that was an option. And the police chief didn't feel comfortable because if people were to sign up for that program, the Sheriff's Department would take it upon themselves to do the well-being check for the people as opposed to going through the Shrewsbury Police Department. And the Shrewsbury Police didn't feel,
No, that's right.
that was a good use of, they just were nervous people could fall through the cracks. So the most we ever had on the old program was 35 people. So when the program ended, we had about a dozen that were still, calling into the senior center. And as they've dropped away, we were down to 2, and then we were just down to 1. And now we have one person this week that asked if she could be.
Yeah, I was just gonna
added
say, I
on.
heard the other day that somebody wanted to be.
Yeah,
added.
so.
What was that Swells program?
That never really got off the ground. That was something somebody had proposed that was willing to create kind of like a peer check-in group. That depending on how people wanted to check, whether it was via text or email, but kind of create a network for people that wanted to kind of just do a well-being check on each other. For people that maybe didn't want to do the, something as formal as an Are You OK program. So they're really, some people asked about it, called Walter, talked to him about it, and then said, oh, I'll think about it.
Yeah.
So nothing,
And nothing really got, yeah,
No,
I ran across some papers about it the
I
other
think
day.
I think in theory, it still sounds like it could be a good idea, but people just don't seem to be ready to do it yet.
Yeah. Shashi?
Many years ago, maybe over 15 years ago, I came across a commercial company that would dial the elder's number, and if he or she did not answer within 10 or 15 rings, it would automatically dial a partner or caregiver's phone number. The computer did that automatically. It was a subscription that you could buy.
Yeah, they still have things like that. They still have different subscription services for people like that. But again,
Because in a
they'd have
way,
to pay.
that's better than the button.
The life
because
the life
sometimes people fall down and just don't.
And that's right, yeah.
Or don't wear them, or.
That's good.
Doesn't
Good
match
to
the
know.
outfit.
I didn't know they
And
had
this
that.
is many, many years ago.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people
It'd be
say
interesting to look into that and see, yeah, maybe we could
Yeah.
do an article in the
No one took
newspaper
your
about
vote.
that. That would be a great article, in the newsletter, that kind of information to put in there. Because I didn't know anything about that, so it'd be good for people to know that. Yeah, very good. Okay, the dementia-friendly grant program, how's that coming?
Good. We have a meeting coming up later. I'm trying to think of the exact date. It's in a couple of weeks. Where we're hoping to finalize the literature packets that we're going to be distributing to
good.
the retailers, the restaurants, the banks. So the committee that has been working on that, we had a really good meeting at the library last month, followed by a showing of a really good movie from the Alzheimer's Association and a program that the Alzheimer's Association put on. So
Will we
it's
get
really,
a
really
copy
good.
of that booklet?
Sure, yeah, it'll be a folder with, specific library, like financial stuff that pertains to like banks, restaurant-related stuff that pertains to restaurants and then retailers, so there's three
I think that
different
would be
routes that we're going,
interesting to have, yes,
yeah.
yes.
Two things. One, I wanted to thank Sharon for the summary of the financial reports, because I found that helpful.
Oh, good.
Yes, yes.
Now, the next question is, can we get Walter to do that? Because I look at the numbers and went up, went down, this, that. I don't know the trend. I don't know what he's seeing as. His evaluation of the data would be helpful. Doesn't have to be long, half a paragraph.
Well, that's what we've
at
been
the
putting
bottom?
at the bottom. I've asked him to kind of come up with three to four things each month that he thought kind of jumped out at him. So throughout FY18, there should be, 3 to 4 things at the bottom of each of his reports of things that he thought were significant.
Is it at the bottom of each page? I didn't see it in mine.
Yeah.
How come I don't have it here?
It's the last four rows of the
Just
grid.
I'll let you read my paper.
No, I'm missing this 1, 2, 3, 4 items. I'm not seeing it on the computer.
Has Walter ever come and talk to us about what he's seeing?
Not in a while.
That would be
He-
so helpful.
He used to, we
I'm
used
sorry.
to have, Barbara asked if Walter has come in. We used to have, once a year, the meal site manager would come in, Cynthia would come in, volunteer coordinator would come in. So, and then basically every month, we'd either have a guest speaker or someone from the office come in. So that might be something we may want to revisit.
I think that would be good, just even for the public to see who Walter
true,
is
yeah.
and what he's doing and,
We can trim our agenda down. We're trimming it all the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
We're getting things done, so,
Yeah.
when we trim them, then we can start, in fact, that's one of the things I have on here for next month too, yes, so.
I found it.
So you have on that Walter could come and talk to us
Sure.
on the agenda?
Well, that's what I added to the agenda, so that's what.
So you want to have both Walter and Cynthia come next month? You wanna have both Walter and Cynthia come next month?
No, Walter can't because we have another one for next month. We'll get to that when we get to new business,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anything else from Walter's, thing? I just want to mention briefly, we had talked, and we're following through on our plan to start hopefully something in our senior center for the dementia-friendly, and Cliff's wife, Mary, has offered to be considered. We're meeting on Friday to discuss the possibility and to see what we can come up with, if we can come up with some kind of program that,
Louise,
yes,
is this in collaboration with the library program?
no, this is in addition to, that,
In what way will that
they will help us in any way that we need.
Because what way is our program going to be different from theirs?
I would like to see ours go, include lunch,
Of course.
either before or after, and I think that would be a whole new situation, you know, and another time, you know, for the care partners as well as for the person, you know, so, I think, you know, but these are the things we're gonna talk about on Friday.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a competitive program.
No, no, no.
My understanding is that a lot of people, care partners,
Yes.
and search for the right word here, will go to as many of these as possible in a week's time. So, you know, someone may very well go to the library one day and to the senior center another,
And that's the thing.
the
that-
same people.
Yeah.
We have to look at the surrounding towns and see when their programs are, and see if we can fit ours. Let's say the library is the first and third weeks, and we would be the second and fourth weeks. We would do, you know, opposite, so there'd be something in Shrewsbury every week. And I think we'll start off with just once in the month and see how it goes and kind of, but
Build.
I said, these are the things we're gonna talk about Friday and see how, if it's gonna be possible and the funding, and, I mean, it's a whole lot of things to think about.
And when I send out the links, for the other things we talked about, I can include a link. The Alzheimer's Association did a whole, it's a 57-page packet, but it's easy to flip through because it's slides to MCOA. So it's a link with MCOA to the Alzheimer's Association about memory cafes and how they work. But their goal for both Dementia Friendly America as well as the Alzheimer's Association is to have a memory cafe available to, like you said, 5 days a week within a reasonable traveling distance. So that maybe people in this area would go to Grafton one day, Northborough another day, go to the library, come to us. But it's their goal that there'll be plenty of them so that people don't have to travel very far. And if they want to, can go 5 days a week somewhere.
And that's why we have to look to see what the other towns are doing.
Because we have such tight scheduling for different rooms, do we have a room
See,
available?
that's the other thing, we've got to look at the calendar and see. I know Wednesday is out, because, I mean, Wednesday is just, you know, it's, the building is full on Wednesday, so we'll have to look for a different day.
Right, and if you do have it around mealtime, you have to look at that time.
Well, yeah, right, you know, it'll be
Available.
like 11 to 1, or, you know, 10 to 12, and then lunch at the end. You know, we will have, this is what we're gonna be talking
Yeah,
about.
right.
So we'll have a report at the next meeting to see what we came up with and see what,
Question,
yes.
is this going to be open to all people with dementia? Because some of them have got other serious health issues in addition to dementia, and in which case we'll need medical support too if these people are allowed to come here.
Well, that's the thing that's one of the things we're gonna talk about, and just, you know, and just see how, and we're gonna look at the library and see what they do and how they mention, you know, that the memory cafes are, you know, all around. This would be similar, but not the same. I guess that's what we're trying to think of, something that's just for us, you know, and we will have to look into that. But so we're just at the beginning stages, we're just talking about it and trying to get some information and to see where we're gonna go.
Right, and the meal bit to me sounds great, but would they have to call 2 days ahead of time also?
These are the things.
I mean, these are all kinds of.
Just find out, you know, and the menu and the whole thing, so many
And
issues.
would they be paying the same amount, and would
Oh,
they
yes,
have to,
yeah.
you know, all these things.
Oh, yeah, as I said, these are all the things that we're gonna have to work out, yeah, so.
A lot of moving parts.
Yeah, so hopefully on Friday, we'll spend an hour or more talking about the whole thing and see what we can come up with, you know. So hopefully it'll work. As I say, it's one of those things you don't know if it's gonna work or not. We'll just have to try it and see. So, okay. Shashi, do you have an update for us? Do you have anything?
I have several updates.
Okay,
One is the senior center, senior-friendly webpage. We have, the good news is I have a draft available for review. I'll email the board. I told Noah, who's our intern, that I want the thing out for review by the board next week.
oh, good.
So you'll have something to look at. Now, the problem is that it won't look like what I would have liked it to be, because the town works under a thing called the Civic Plus, which provides the template, and all the rest of it, all the other town websites have this, all conform to this template, which introduces some problems for us. So we're trying to figure out a workaround for that. But a first draft next week.
Very good.
Excellent.
That sounds
Now,
promising. Yes.
That's just the senior center webpage. But accidentally, Sharon and I had a meeting with Bob Cox.
Oh, good.
And I have a kind of a long-winded report here. It wasn't intended to be a formal meeting. I dropped in on Bob Cox, and he was said, why don't you come in tomorrow morning? And I met Sharon. It ended up as a 1-hour meeting, but I thought I'd run you past what are the things we talked about. First of all, we have got D-size drawings of the network, so we know what's what. And Bob said that he would be providing 4 lines, and 5 lines actually, Ethernet connection for the new computers. And the current plan is that he wants to put them in one corner, the far corner, towards the front of the building, and have them clustered together. So the computers themselves will probably have to come from John Covey's funding, is my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sharon.
No, that's what I took away from it
And
as well.
The advantage to that is that it'll be a town-owned computers, and the town, it'll be subject to the, 3-year refresh, and software will be updated, the virus scan will be updated, unlike what we have now, which are the computers that we own. So it'll be part of the normal refresh process for the town computers. Now, we also talked about the furniture and stuff like that. And Bob seems to feel that we should talk to Ellen in the library, to look at her catalog and see if we can find something slightly lower cost. If you buy a computer desk, it probably comes with power wiring in it, and it probably has charging stations for the USB ports. All that stuff will be there. Whereas if you were to make it into a Boy Scout project, yes, we'll save some money, but may not be exactly what we want.
Right, yeah.
He's also said we should look into maybe the library has used furniture that we could take used. Perhaps we can just use the furniture we have now temporarily. What else?
What Ellen was saying, when we had touch base with her, is that they have, just like with MCOA, how we have, our statewide network, the library has a network where they constantly are kind of like trading furniture and so on. So she said that they had some computer kiosks, and when they got the new library, another library took those kiosks. So that might be something that she could kind of put some feelers out there to see if anybody has anything that, particularly where we're only looking for one kiosk, for a 4-station kiosk, that maybe we can get one from another library.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
That sounds like a
So
good
those
idea.
are all things that need to be further investigation.
Or schools, even schools will have a lot of,
I don't know. Does the school system have something?
we got the chairs from them, isn't it? The chairs which are in the
Yeah.
arts room came from the schools.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that they don't want, not fashionable enough, we could probably take those.
While on the subject, one thing we haven't really talked about is ergonomics. Because we're talking of elderly people using these furniture and not kids. And I don't know, well, yes, we can buy cheap furniture or inexpensive furniture, but are they ergonomically appropriate for the elderly?
Yeah,
That's something we need to look at before we make a commitment.
yeah.
Since I had Bob's attention, I decided to overstep my bounds here maybe a little bit. I did talk to him about the audio-visual upgrade that we're looking for. And we both feel that what we have now is definitely outdated, needs to be up. And sometime soon, next couple of days, maybe next week, Sharon and I will be meeting with him again. And this time, we will have included, what's the gentleman's name?
Greg.
Greg Marceau. Greg Marceau is the audiovisual, what is he, audiovisual expert or whatever from the high school.
With the school
And-
Oh,
department.
okay.
And we're going to meet with him and find out what we can do and what our needs are. So I'm actually soliciting whoever wants to give their 2 cents. I talked to Bill Davis, and one of the things he said, it would be nice to have walkie-talkies when he's teaching dancing,
Yeah.
that he can walk around amongst the dancers and talk to them individually. Now, I was thinking along the lines of what a tour group uses, that they give you a little headphone, and as the tour guide is walking along, you can hear what he's talking. I'm thinking maybe something along those lines might be something we might want to consider. But when we meet with Greg, either this week or next, we'll present all our wants, and then we'll see what happens.
We definitely want a cordless mic,
Yes.
at least one,
Well, see,
probably a couple.
we have the movie nights, might be better with a large screen TV and a DVR or DVD player. I was thinking of a DVR and a camera, thinking that maybe the dancers would like to see themselves. I don't know how Norma feels about that. Maybe they don't want to see
No,
themselves.
we don't want to, yeah.
But these are the kinds of things we can present, and it's going to be a cost-benefit trade-off to see how much we can afford. That'll last us for the next 7 or 8 years. So that's the kind of stuff. So if I'm soliciting input from anybody who wants to,
Did he give you any time frame, Bob Cox, on the sound system?
no, not yet.
When I spoke with him a month or more ago, he had said he hoped to have it done this summer.
Well, yes, but we haven't really told him what it is that we need.
He seemed to, I mean,
That's the purpose of this meeting with Greg next.
yeah.
Because,
I
without,
thought he had already ordered all the parts. The way I understood what he said, that it was all already ordered. So I don't know, but maybe it hasn't been, and they're looking for something else. I don't know, but that's what, I had the impression
we'll,
a
yeah.
month ago that he had said they were gonna put it in this summer, so we'll see.
The other thing that Bob told us was that our conference room, all those furniture, what do you call those things?
Oh, where we used to have, the computer station, how we
Oh, yes.
had the counter. Now that, we've definitely have decided we're not going to be putting computers back in there. He had thought it made sense to remove that counter so that we can spread out more in that room. It might not really help for our meetings, but for when we do the AARP tax returns, they really need to kind of spread out into that corner. It might help with, the support groups, with the meditation. So it'll give a few more feet to widen that out a little bit.
That's great.
Yeah.
But you lose a lot of space. Some groups like, if you have handouts, if you have things that, you need space to put things on. that one little sink is not gonna be enough to, you know, spread. I know I've used it anyhow, put stuff on that whole counter for people to use or to take or that kind of thing, you know, so it's helpful in that respect.
Well, we did buy that lightweight, long folding table for when we have the Panera Bread come in. That's in my office behind the door. So, and that can be adjusted to, it's got three
Okay,
different
as long as
heights.
you have an alternative,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of groups go in, you know, and you have handouts, you have all kinds of things. You want some place to spread out so people can take, you know, so that's what I hate to see that go. But if you have an alternative, then that's good.
Yeah.
The other thing I brought up was the garbage disposal issue. And he still feels that, well, here's the thing. First of all, we're not a commercial kitchen. We're a meal site. And to replace the existing garbage disposal with a commercial grade one is not a simple question of taking one out and putting another one in. I would assume that you would probably need new plumbing, new electrical wiring, more, a bigger service.
Yes.
You know, a 15 amp standard 3-prong may have to go to 2. I don't know all the issues that are related, but I would think that all these things would have to be done. But Bob reiterated his position that that you should feed it small amounts at a time, have the water running. Now, I have an incinerator at home, and when I had a problem with the incinerator, that's exactly what the incinerator salesman or the service person told me, and I haven't had any problems with it since. So I don't want to get into the middle of a conflict here, but if somebody can look up the model number, we could call the manufacturer and see if we're doing it right, if we're using it correctly.
Last week it was blocked 3 times.
I'm sorry?
Last week, the garbage disposal blocked 3 times.
I understand that.
The plumber came in and he still insists that we are doing it wrong. You're disposing of large trays of food because some of that is packed and sent to
Yeah,
Rachel's table,
yeah,
yeah.
Rachel's table, yeah.
Rachel's table, and sometimes they don't have the containers. So we have to dispose that. So it's a huge amount of food that is going in. And at home, you're doing small amounts.
See, that's exactly the problem, that we're not a commercial kitchen. We're not equipped to handle that quantity of food. So I think this is an issue. If the manufacturer of the unit that we are actually using says you're not supposed to be doing that, where do we go? But I think the manufacturer of the unit needs to be contacted. Say, what is the correct way to use this thing? Are we putting it out, doing it for something that it was not?
I think Beth should call, because she's the one in charge of the kitchen.
It seems to me there's a weird problem here. We're not a commercial kitchen, but we develop waste commensurate with a commercial kitchen.
Yes.
You know, the same kind of waste. So while it's not, I mean, I've been involved in providing a kitchen that wasn't commercial but had aspects, and you have to make some adaptations. So you say, you know, yeah, well, it's a meal site, but a meal site has as many leftover
I'm not
junk as.
disputing that. What I'm
yeah.
saying is, if you want to make it a commercial grade disposal, then you have to come up with the funding to do the plumbing over, do the electrical wiring over, and get the contractor in here,
Yeah.
rip everything out. It may not be a simple thing of roll this one out, roll the other one in.
Yeah.
I have a question. I'd be interested in what type of garbage disposals do other meal sites have to dispose of their excess food? What kind of
Yeah,
garbage, I mean, if we could document that these other meal sites actually have commercial, I mean, or if they don't,
I think, why don't we tell Beth? Because I said she's in charge of the kitchen.
And she goes to monthly meetings with the other meal site managers.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something she could ask, because to
I
the
mean,
best of
I
my-
would be
find out,
very
you know.
Yeah.
interested in finding that out.
Yeah.
What are,
Yeah.
Because to the
what-
best of my knowledge, none of the other senior centers have commercial kitchens.
I don't know, I don't know
So-
anything about
See,
it, you know.
I mean, I don't
Another
know. I mean, do
option.
they run into this problem? And if they don't, why aren't they running into this
And
problem?
it's the same food.
But
So-
like Worcester has a larger population, and they have a separate kitchen where they serve soups and.
Yeah, they would be an
So does
exception.
that make it commercial, or?
In their case, probably, because they have, the students from Worcester, the Worcester Vocational School, their culinary program, they, from what I understand, they come in and make meals a few times a week in addition to, so they probably do have something that, I would think Worcester would be the exception, but as far as the other communities like Millbury, Grafton, Auburn, none of them would have commercial
All right, why don't we
kitchens, and they're
talk,
getting
why
the
don't we
same
talk
food.
to
I mean, I
Beth?
don't know if they do or
Yeah,
don't.
we'll talk
but-
to Beth and tell her to see if she can find out that information and see where we go from there.
The simple solution might be to invest in a freezer and put our garbage in there until garbage day.
That's an idea too, yeah.
But then it's like Roger now lifts when we were disposing it off in the garbage, not in the garbage disposal,
In the trash.
in the trash. He would have to lift those heavy bags
Yes.
and take it, because none of us were going to do it, to lift those heavy bags to put it in the trash. So we are putting all that burden on Roger to be able to lift all those heavy bags of trash to put it in there, and I don't think it's fair.
We have some more problems that we're not gonna solve them today. Thank you, Shashi, very much. Thank you for your report. We
I'm
look
not done
forward
yet.
to.
Not done yet.
Oh, you're not done
I'm
yet?
not
Oh,
done yet.
okay, well, I'll give you a
Okay.
couple more minutes. We have to get going, yeah.
Talked about the other thing that we talked, Sharon and I talked to Bob about was the total absence of security cameras.
Oh, yes.
And we don't have the funding for it, and yet I feel I'm very uncomfortable as we open up the senior center to, this afternoon will be the
The farmer's
the
market. yeah.
farmer's market. Now we're going to open up to the dementia group, and we're gonna have all kinds of people there.
The spirit of
And yet-
Shrewsbury.
Yeah, we're gonna open it all up, and yet nobody, with all the violence that seems to be contagious, is spreading across the country, I'm really concerned that we have some kind of violence done here.
What does he
Nobody's
recommend?
being,
What does Bob recommend?
Sharon, you wanna address that?
Quickly?
Well, so one of the things that, again, IT has had to do for all the public buildings is do an assessment for what it would be to put security cameras in each of the buildings, so that if any grants become available, they already have something that's ready to go with some prices. So they did come to the senior center. They did have the security people come over to the senior center and go through, and apparently did some pricing up for John Covey. But I don't know what that is. I don't know how much it would
I'm
cost.
just curious
or-
how much
yeah.
they say, you know, how much they predict. If we could have a fundraiser or something, you know, get somebody to donate money for our security cameras, that would be,
The problem is not, we should not attempt to solve the problem piecemeal. In other words, it's not just us, it's
No, it's
all the
all-
municipal
it's the
buildings.
whole-
Correct.
yeah.
And
Correct.
whatever we do has to fit in with the
Yes.
town's overall security
Yes.
requirements.
Right.
Because people are moving around and all that.
well, I know that, no, it's quite a problem, every place it's a problem, there's no question, you know. There are a lot of cameras around in the world, but they're not where we want them right now. We want some more cameras. And I think it's a very legitimate kind of thing that we've talked about this before.
Yeah, we talked about elder abuse and we talked about all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so, okay, thank you very much.
And when we have that meeting with Greg, I'll let you know how that went,
Oh, do, please do.
probably
Yes.
later on this week. And I will
Good.
send out the link to the proposed senior website.
Oh, we're looking forward to it. See if we can go on and figure it out. See how easy it is.
That's the whole
One-
idea, that you
one
should be
finger,
able to
right?
figure it out without instructions.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so, yeah. Thank you, Shashi, thank you. Okay, very quickly, our updates. We did the sound system.
Coffee
Real
machine.
quick, the coffee machine, Sharon, 5 words.
I,
5 words.
I'm getting
Does not work.
some
That's 4
great
words.
guidance from the library. They also have a pay-as-you-go, so to speak, Keurig. And Priya, the assistant director over at the library, when we were talking about the Memory Cafe, we ended up having a long conversation about the Keurig system. And they're using a different provider than we've been using, and it sounds like they're having a much more successful program. So she's given me the information so we can look into that. And if we can be using the same service provider that they're using, it sounds like it might run a lot smoother.
Let's hope then. And
Yeah.
Let's hope it can, by next month, it'll all be done.
Let's hope.
Let's hope so.
That would be great.
Good, yes. Signage?
We had all the signs dropped off. I think I had passed around the
Yeah.
sample that had come back, just to make sure that it met our requirements. The sheriff's department dropped them all off, so they're all ready to be painted. The person that does the painting for the town, came and took a look at them yesterday and said that unfortunately right now, he's gotta get all the painting done at the schools. So he wouldn't be able to paint the signs until the schools are back in session. But he said, you know, if we have any volunteers that wanna paint them and letter them, you know, that should be fine too.
Why don't we go
So-
to the men's group on Thursday morning and see, or the small repair, the small home repair, have Walter find somebody who likes to paint, or 2 or 3 people. I mean, you know, it's not rocket science
And
by
there's not
any
many.
means.
There's not many. I think we had a dozen made. So I think the trickiest part will be putting the lettering,
The lettering.
doing the
And
lettering.
that's not, you
But-
know,
It shouldn't.
I would say either go to, or both, go to the men's group and also have Walter go through his small home repair. Because let's see if we can get it done by next meeting.
Yeah, particularly, I think the hard part was having the signs actually cut and made,
Well,
which is
they're all,
done.
and we've had them for a month. So, you know, let's hope by next month we'll have them all painted and lettered then. Okay, good. Farmers market, well, we know that's gonna be today. I read with interest, what Dr. Claremont is doing. He's with the Friends, and they have set up a table. We had talked briefly about maybe having some Council on Aging brochures and things like that. So I'm gonna try today to see if I can talk with Dr. Claremont and see what kinds of things he would think that we could do. And also, well, I put the Spirit of Shrewsbury down on the new business, but we also need to, if we are going to take part in the Spirit of Shrewsbury, which, believe it or not, is like, what, 2 months away, or 2.5 months away, it's coming very quickly. Will any of you be available on that last Saturday in September to help? We're going to have it up at the senior center. The Friends are gonna be there. We're gonna have a bocce tournament, and Dr. Claremont has the Vision Mobile coming. We have a lot of different things. I was thinking of having some kind of a multi-generational, maybe an ice cream social, something like that. I don't know what else we might want to do, something to promote, to get people in the senior center, you know, to promote the Council on Aging. If you have any ideas, but we're gonna need people there too, and that's the thing, we're gonna need some people to be there
People, yes.
on that Saturday to.
When is
people as I can
the
do.
over 90 tea?
Sunday, be the next day.
Sunday.
Yep.
The over 90 tea is Sunday, so they will have all the people up there too, so.
Which Saturday is this?
The last Saturday in September, was it the 28th, 29th?
29th.
Around there someplace, I forget exactly what it is.
And one of the things that's also being kicked around right now too is last year Maria Smith from the parade committee, who helps organize the tea, had thought it might be neat to put on like a senior prom, and the musicians that performed at the tea said they would be willing to do an event like
They were
that.
terrific, yeah.
And so Maria has talked to them, and she thought it might be neat. She thinks it would be too much to try to cram in during the Fall Festival weekend, but you know how some of the events start happening a couple of weeks before? She thought it might be neat to do in the middle of September, to have the senior prom, like on a Thursday evening, with a meal from like 4 to 6, with music and dancing, and it could be like the kickoff to the Spirit of Shrewsbury. So she was thinking, I think it's the 13th, Thursday, September 13th. So it'd be the week before the blood drive. I said, you know, all we'd have to do is show up because she'd be taking care of everything.
That would be great.
So I thought that,
great,
that
yeah.
sounded,
If we do this, we should think about getting a van
Is this on a Friday again?
for people who can't.
she was thinking a Thursday evening, so it wouldn't cut into the weekend, because the
Yeah,
weekends
we
are so
would need
busy.
transportation probably, and that was the
Yes.
other thing I had put down on that Saturday. I know they transport from the parking at the
The foundation there.
foundation
Yeah.
to the Oak Middle School. I said, if they could run one of the buses up here and back, and I don't know who's in charge of transportation for the,
I can check with Maria, because
yeah, check
they,
with Maria and see
they
if it,
pay for us to run the bus during the tea, because we pick people up for the tea,
yeah.
as well as to get them here for the parade, and the parade committee pays for that. So we do that on that
Well,
Sunday.
if we could find out who the transportation is and see if we could get some transportation from Oak Middle up here and then back again, you know, get them back and forth, which would be a good thing to try to get the people up here too, so. If you give them transportation, that will help a lot, so. So, yeah, if you could get me that name and, or if
Yeah, I'll
Maria
check
wants to talk to somebody or whatever.
Okay.
If they're arranging it for the tea on Sunday, maybe they could arrange it for Saturday as well.
Yeah,
And I was thinking like 9 to 1, something like that. I think, you know, I think that the SOS, the expo doesn't start till 10, I think. I think it's 10 to 4. So I thought if we started like 9 to 1 would be a good time. And I don't know if anybody wants to serve food, if we could get maybe somebody to come in, I don't know. Maybe Ramey's daughter with her food truck, I don't know. No, she'll be down at the expo.
I was gonna say, she'll be there,
They'll
but
be
she'll
down
be
at the
over
expo,
to.
yeah. So, you know, I said there's several things we can look at, so if you have any ideas on things, we'll have to finalize it probably in the August meeting. We don't wanna wait till September, because we wanna make sure we wanna get it in the, September newsletter. So all of our activities and things that are going on, so, okay. I took that kind of out of order, didn't I? The kitchen door, they're not gonna put a window in, but they're gonna make so Bob Cox told me about a ramp-like, where the step is down, to make a ramp-like thing. He said it's gonna cost like $1,000 to $1,500 to put that in. Well, it's a safety kind of issue now. There's a step about 6, it's like the one out on the patio. And that one, he's putting a railing in onto the patio. He said that there's not enough slant in the patio to put a ramp. But if he puts a railing in, then people can step down, yes.
He had said that about the first door at the back, that he was going to put a little slope there. Is he going to do that for the kitchen door as well? Or is it only for that one door?
I thought he was
know.
gonna be doing it for both.
Both? Okay.
And he had sent me an email saying that different hardware was being put on the kitchen door to be able to open it easier. Because right now it's got, well, Shashi would know, it's got that handle, so it'll have the push bar like the other doors do. That can be,
Yeah, just like
Right.
this one.
Yeah,
no, I think it'll be like the other doors that bar that you can just lock.
yeah.
So that should make it easier for people to get in and out and not have that handle. So he said that was being switched out.
Oh, good, okay. Greeters. We need some greeters for the senior center. Have you talked to Stacy about that?
Yes, she's working on putting a blurb together for the August newsletter.
Okay.
So, I know she was talking to Linda when Linda was in working on the
I was
newsletter.
wondering about the greeters from the high school. If they were missing greeting this summer, they could come up and keep in practice, you know, that, so maybe if she contacted some of them to see if
Well,
they would
I-
like to come up and,
Yeah, I know there's one gentleman that that definitely said he was interested, so.
Good,
Good,
talk
so
to him.
yes, there
I mean, we
there
can
were a
get
few.
started anytime, anytime, yes. Okay, we don't have a Friends report. We don't have building oversight, they're not meeting this summer. The municipal vulnerability, that's a hard word, preparedness report, that's a mouthful. MVPR, let's do it that way. We don't have anything more on that.
I don't know if Shashi wants to summarize it, otherwise what I can do is send a link to it when I
Well,
send these other links.
here's the thing. Sharon and I attended the seminar.
Yes,
Now, there is going to be a reading session, and I believe it's open to the public.
Yes,
And
to get feedback.
Kristen
and-
sent out an email, I can forward it to all of you.
oh, that would be good.
It's going to be next week, is it?
I think so, yeah.
Next week on no, not next week, the following week after that, I think. And it's going to be on a Wednesday night here.
Oh, okay.
And where the company that conducted the seminar is going to, sorry,
That's okay. The company's gonna,
the company that they're going to make the presentation. And they're going to, it's basically a listening session to their report.
that sounds good,
on
yeah.
what the seminar came up with.
If you could send us a link to that would
Yeah,
be
I'll
great.
just forward Kristen's email,
Oh, okay,
because she sent it out to all the people who were participants.
but it's open to everyone.
Yeah,
That's what I get the feeling, because the link actually points to the location in the town
Oh, good.
website.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, that'll be good then, yeah, if anybody's interested, good. Before we run out of time, I had an email yesterday, from the secretary of the Commission on Disabilities. And she said that, their commission, they meet every other month, but they've been talking about the commonalities we have between the senior citizens and the Commission on Disabilities, and they would like to come and meet with us and just consider some of the things that talk about some of the things that we have in common and issues that we are both addressing and that kind of thing. So I told her I would bring it to you today and see if it's something that you want to do. And if it is, then in August we could meet, and I told her 10 o'clock. I figured that would give us time to get through a lot of our stuff and have them, say probably for a half hour maybe I don't know how long it's gonna take.
Are we meeting with Cynthia in August?
Well, that's the thing, I said, I've already committed us to,
Oh, I
if
see.
you want to. If you don't want to, if you wanna put it off to another month, that's fine too. I mean, it's up to you. If you wanna have Cynthia, we could, I don't know if we have time for both of them. That's the thing,
That's
you know. But if, I told her, I said, it would depend on what you vote. And her commission was meeting last night, and she was gonna bring it to them and see what they would like to do too. So whether they are all free during the day, I don't know. So we're kind of working back and forth. So what's the will of the board? What do you want to do?
We'd like to hear from them, but if we give them another month rather than next month,
Okay, September?
September,
Does that work better for everybody then?
Yeah.
Okay.
and they meet every other month anyway, right?
Yes, they will meet, right, if it's in September, then they will meet before we meet, you know, so.
Have they said how long their program is?
Well, it's not a program, they're just coming
Well,
to.
I mean, to talk
with
to
it.
us, but I mean,
We didn't discuss length,
oh, that's what I was really
but
wondering.
when I answer her back, I will tell her probably a half hour. I think that should be enough. And I said 10 o'clock, because that would give us a chance to get through all the kinds of things and to get prepared, if that's okay. If you'd prefer something else, I told her I would
sounds
get
all right.
back to her today after we meet, so it's your will.
Yeah, September is probably better for me.
September's better, yeah.
That'd be perfect.
September is probably better for me.
Okay,
way back when, they actually used to meet at the senior center, and they used to keep, all their files and so on at the senior center.
Oh.
And they used to, we actually used to exchange, minutes. And we would accept their minutes and they would accept
Yeah.
ours. And we would highlight things that we thought were of
That was a
interest
long
to them.
time ago, though.
Yeah, it was back when Gail Sokolowski was on that commission.
Yeah, I don't
So,
remember it all,
yeah,
yeah.
it was a long time ago.
Yeah,
But yeah, so way back when, we did have a partnership like that, and, we worked together on a few things, like, trying to promote things for transportation. They were a big help in helping to expand transportation services.
That's what I figured there, we have a lot of issues in common, and I think it's time, that we start to compare and to see how we can help them and they can help us, and
What
basically, we
collaboration,
can help the people, that's what we're here for, is to help the people, so. So if we say September at 10 a.m.,
Yeah,
Yes.
say for a half hour about, something like that?
yeah.
And what are
Okay.
they called?
Commission on Disabilities.
This is the Governor's
CO
Commission?
Pardon?
The governor? No.
No, this is the town, I don't know.
Commission on
It's a-
Yeah,
it's just
this
the
is the
town.
town.
Just the town, COD, they say, yeah.
Commissioner on Disability.
Mission.
Commission on Disabilities.
And at least in the past, I don't know what their focuses have been lately, but at least in the past, they would focus on certain buildings that had some ADA compliance issues, and work with the proper authorities to get those things corrected, and worked with us on things like transportation, and working with people under 60 that needed assistance.
Yeah.
So we have worked together in the past, but it was a long time ago.
So I think it's time that we reconnect and see what we can do. Good. The feasibility study, when Kristen was with us the other day, and she mentioned that the town has an architect that's looking at the Beale School, I guess it is. And they said that possibly we could get into that same architect kind of thing to do to ours. So you're gonna talk to Kristen about how to do
Yeah,
that?
Kristen was supposed to be checking the RFP or something about that to see if we could kind of just piggyback onto that, or if it would be more complicated, but
Yeah.
she seemed to think that it might not be that difficult, particularly just to look at the existing building, what might be able to be changed or expanded on. We were talking about, the office layout, and just things like that, just taking a snapshot of what we have now and what may or may not be able to be some quick fixes.
That's it, we want the immediate
Right.
kinds of improvements, we also want the long range,
Right.
So that's we want the two kinds, because there's some things that can be done right away. So like the office space, it definitely needs to be reconstructed and probably enlarged. If, and I think, if they move, it's tilted this way, if you just move it out this way, you have that whole
Squared off.
extra space there that you can
Yeah.
put in. And it would not interfere with the traffic flow at all. It would just, just take away the bread table, but we could find another place for the bread table and the My Senior Center, But, so, I think simple things like, well, not simple, but I mean, not tear the whole building down kind of thing. So, but these are the kind of things we're looking for in this feasibility. And I think we turn that in October, I think that's another thing that we put in, I think it's October that we have to have
Yeah.
this done by.
have to check
But we need architects, we need all that kind of information to put, and I don't know if there's a form or if you do it narratively, I don't know how, we'll have to find that, we'll find all that out, but we're working on it, yeah. You had mentioned elder abuse, we have 5 minutes, Shashi. I don't, in what respect, how do you want to address that,
Which one?
elder abuse?
I'm
That's a
not
big
sure. I was not prepared for the two big
Oh, I'm
questions like this.
sorry.
Because,
No, you had mentioned it right at the end of the last meeting, and I said we'd put it on the agenda this time,
yes, I realized that, but I didn't realize that I was expected to make a presentation here.
No,
No, no.
just
The thing
off
is,
the top of your
the
head
thing is,
thoughts.
the thing is that we need to have a comprehensive approach to the question of elder abuse, or preparedness. How does, let's say, the library deal with it? How do other people, to begin with, we need to at least do some fact-finding as a first step.
Yeah, my first thought is the police station.
Yes, definitely.
That was
They
one of
may
my
already
first,
have.
when I think about this, you know, how do you report this kind of thing, and how do you, you know, and, no, I agree, it's a definite issue that we need to discuss, because it comes up all the, I mean, every day we have issues with that. And how you go about it, that's the other thing. And what do? We don't just want to write a report. We want
Right.
action items.
Exactly.
We want objectives, but we want action items with our objectives, you know, and maybe some of this maybe should go in our strategic plan. I don't think we've even addressed the elder abuse in our
I
strategic plan.
wonder if Walter runs into this at all.
Oh, yeah, well,
I'm sure he does.
we're all mandated reporters, so if we, suspect that someone is a victim of any type of abuse, financial, physical, we're mandated to report it to Elder Services of Worcester.
Yes.
The thing that's probably the toughest thing that I've seen throughout my career, even before I was at the senior center, when I was at Mystic Valley Elder Services, the thing that I've always found so difficult with elder abuse is that, unlike with children, an adult can choose to stay in an abusive situation. So you can learn that somebody's being horribly abused or financially exploited. You can, you know, have somebody from Elder Services talk to them, or a police officer talk, and they can choose not to do anything.
Because a lot of times it could be a senior, another member of the family, and they
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
That's right.
And,
yeah,
and
so-
that's really hard.
It's just like hoarders. It's just like hoarders.
Yeah.
You can't,
Right.
they may choose to live that way, and you
Yeah,
can't do it.
I know it,
Correct,
yeah.
yeah. So, but,
We really cannot have control over what's happening at home, but when seniors come here,
Yes.
that's when,
The bullying,
The bullying
I
is
think the
exactly
bullying
that.
is
That's
one of the
another-
biggest things that we, you know, that we can try to prevent that all we can. And here again, it comes to our welcoming feeling at the senior center. And if we, you know, if we see it, we just say, that is not appropriate. You know, you cannot do that here. And if you want to do that kind of, is that your behavior, then you're not welcome. I mean, not that we don't want to welcome people, but we only want those that are going to be welcoming in themselves, you know, and happy to be there, and not to bully other people. I mean, because it can create a problem with every place, you know, the whole building can become infected if you have one or two bullies in there. As we know, we've experienced it off and on through the past 10, 15 years that I've been around and up there, you know, and it really, it creates an atmosphere in the whole building that's, it's contagious. It's a negative feeling that we're trying to prevent.
and it's, you know, not just us, you know, I think we had talked previously about, the workshop that was offered at MCOA
Yeah.
at the last conference. And one of the COAs had given a presentation on what they tried to do by modeling, a program that one of the schools had done. And they were able to apply it, you know, talk about you know, multi-generationally. They found, you know, this really doesn't pertain just to kids. This is really just people, how they
It's
interact and treat
everybody,
each
yeah.
other. And so they incorporated a lot of it into their senior center policies and found it was very helpful.
I think too, having a greeter, having somebody greet somebody as they come through the door with a smile and say welcome, that sets a tone as well. Sets a tone that this is a happy, welcoming place, you know, there's no place for that other kind of, you know, behavior. So, I'm glad you brought it up, Shashi, because, and I really think when we get to our strategic plan, we will
think it-
definitely keep this in mind
Right.
and put some action items in our strategic plan. I think it's something that, I don't know which goal it's gonna fit under, but, we'll check that out on the 25th, yeah.
There's another kind of abuse too, and I'm just thinking about the consumer awareness, the thing that Dave Grillo has in the newsletter. That's a whole level of abuse, and that column's great, but there's some other ways that we can educate people. I think of that only because my mother's cousin died, and my brother was the executor of her estate. She had nobody really other than us, and he just discovered ways in which she had been taken for a ride. She was, you know, really robbed by, and she was just taken in by email scams and phone scams.
There's a
and-
lot of things out there, and we find people will either just not pick up the brochures about it or come to, there's a wonderful dynamic program that the RSVP program does called the Fraud Squad, and they actually put on a play.
I've seen that, I've seen that,
Yes,
it's
and
wonderful.
they're excellent, but there's always a low turnout, because people just think, oh, you know, I know all about that, or, oh, I wouldn't fall for that, and anybody can.
Anybody does it.
Well, cable is, although we now are learning cable usage is shrinking, but that might be also a way that we could utilize to get to people. They're more likely to notice something, I think, if it's visual.
Yeah, that's a good idea, so. But I think, you know, I'm glad, as I say, I'm glad you brought it up, Sashi, because there's so many issues like this that we just don't think of, you know, we think about it someplace else, but we don't bring it up. And I think there are issues that we really need to address. And have some policies maybe and procedures that policy, you know, that affect the senior. Those things we can put in writing. You know, what are the policies here? What are the procedures in the senior center? And what are the results? If you do this, then this is going to happen, kind of thing. You know, 3 strikes you're out. Well, to me, 1 strike you're out. But no, but I mean, these are the kind of things you need we need to put in writing, as well as discuss. So.
Well, we talked about, a little bit about putting even, not necessarily posters, but, you know, framed suggestions on, in a positive way, on how we act at the senior center.
Yes, yeah.
Yep.
And to put everything in a positive way.
Positive way,
Every
yeah.
statement that you make, you know, you put as in a positive statement rather than as a negative. And
Right.
so many of us, I think we all do, when you say things, sometimes it's a negative connotation instead of the positive that you're looking, like the glass is half full or the glass is half empty. I use that as an example, you know. So I think we can all learn from these kind of things, but, so, yeah, I think it's a very important issue that we need to address.
Because when it's out there, then the rest of the people will be more likely to step in.
Yes, and I think that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
We need to establish those kind of policies, and that this is just not acceptable in this place, you know, and so. And I think we need to do it sooner than later, you know, so. Okay, I think we're at the end of the agenda.
I just have a question.
Oh, yes.
During the last heat wave, there were a couple of people who asked me whether, is the senior center equipped to handle people who might need aid to come to a cooling station or?
We weren't declared a cooling station at all, at least not yet, but
It
in
has
the
to be
past
declared by
years we
this-
have.
It has to be declared by the town?
I don't know if it's the Shrewsbury Emergency Management or if it's a state thing, but in the past, when we were a cooling center, we were manned by members of SEMA, the Shrewsbury Emergency Management. They had, you know, water that they brought in and volunteers that they kept the senior center open, I think, till 9 o'clock at night. So, it wasn't our declaration, you know, we always invite people to come in and keep cool. But to have, you know, the extra water brought in and the extra volunteers from Shrewsbury Emergency Management, I don't know who makes that declaration, if that's something that has to happen on, you know, town manager level, or the state has to declare something. I'm not sure how that works.
We ought to find that out. I thought about it last week as well. I wondered if this was a cooling center, you know, because it really got hot. And it's going to next week, I guess, again, from what I understand, so,
And that's one of the things, the thing that, you know, Shashi and I attended,
yeah.
that was something that they just kept saying over and over again, is that this extreme weather, you know, extreme snow,
You can be a
extreme
cooling
cold,
station,
extreme
or you
heat.
can be a,
Warming station.
or a refuge in case of,
Yes,
you know, then you need the backup power and you need place to keep food and all that kind of,
Place to
Yeah.
shower.
Yeah.
and security and all this
Well,
kind of
that's it, yeah, so,
A shelter, that's the word I'm looking for.
yeah.
An emergency shelter. We're not an emergency shelter.
No.
Actually, it turns out we're not even a cooling station. Not
No,
really.
not yet, no,
Not officially.
not officially, yeah, so. We need to work on those things.
Yes. So I'll send
Okay.
that email out with the get the link
Very good.
from Noah, and I'll send the email out. I'll forward Kristen's
Yeah, that would be great.
for the listening
Yes.
listening session.
That sounds good. I think I'd like to go to
But
that.
it's in the evening.
Yes, that's fine.
I think it's 7
Okay.
o'clock in the evening.
Sounds good. Anything else to come before the board? I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
I second.
We adjourned.